call the meeting to order. Ron, you wanna
Sure. Rich Kessenberg,
hear?
Sarah Stevens Morley,
Here.
Jeff Solon, Sean,
Jeff is in a budget meeting today, so he will not be.
he won't be here. Sean Kimball,
This is season.
here. Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Chris Daddy.
Here.
Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Dennis Ryu.
Here.
Chuck Net.
Do we have a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Seven, good.
Yeah, we're fine. Pledge of allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, any public correspondence?
Yes. One is a wonderful correspondence where the updated site plans actually answered a lot of the questions and comments in the original email, but Matt Germain had written correspondence to Dr. Solon with feedback about the stormwater and its safety in relation to the play areas. But then he wrote back and said, I found the school design update presented to town council. It addresses many of my concerns. Your team did a great job with the updated site plan. But I put the whole correspondence in our document so you can read through the original comments. The second correspondence that we received was from Karen Schnitzer, who shared the Connecticut Audubon Society's State of the Birds report, and her desire and the Audubon Society's desire to continue to make the buildings as bird safe as possible. So that link to the PDF and the correspondence is also available in the Google Doc.
Very good. That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Public comments, any?
Comment.
Yep.
Okay, so I received this list that regards the geothermal. I sent it to Chairman Gusenberg. Did you distribute that at all?
You sent me something this morning and I've been busy all day.
Okay.
I haven't
All
opened
right,
it.
then we'll catch up here. So I did receive the Buckley figures that were informative, but the problem, of course, is it's only 1 or 2 years that they're discussing. What I think we have to do, just bear with me for just a moment. We have to look at the project of geothermal over the long term, right? We spend a lot of money up front, and we want to see a return over time. If we don't have evidence that over time this makes sense, then that's exactly what I think the point is. We have some information gleaned from this list. Providence, I do not know, but it does check out as far as actually being geothermal installations in Connecticut and Massachusetts. I only considered Connecticut at the moment. The first one was an eye-opener. It's the Hamilton Avenue School in Greenwich. And it was done in 2009, I believe, and it's failed across the board. The town now has to somehow develop a new HVAC system. I can leave this with you if you wish. A couple copies, pass it around. All right, so in further, we have 13 projects with my cursory investigation in Connecticut that are over 10 years of age. We have 2 that are 8 years. Several of them are O&G. Are we considering O&G for a partner in this project?
O&G is our,
Okay, so I would think.
right here at the table.
I would think O&G would be forthright and to present to the commission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data sets from projects they've had for 10 years. Is that possible?
Well, are you saying O&G is the management company for them keeping records, or were they the contractor that built and then moved on to another project?
The only information I got was from whatever the hyperlink here was in my additional, so I can't specify exactly if they're kind of contract or
We did a bunch down
one or
in
the other.
east side of the state. I don't remember what town that was.
Because like when, for instance, when we're
Well, that's
done with this
okay.
project 10 years later,
Yeah.
O&G is not going to be able to give you information about the data of our of our systems 10 years from now, because they'll no longer be on the project, they will have built it and moved on. So when you're saying O&G was on it, I'm just curious in what capacity, and are they still on it, to where they might have the
These are all
info?
questions I do not have an answer for. But I think it behooves your group to figure it out, because we have evidence there, and I have other anecdotal evidence that other schools in the area have failed with geothermal. And I'm
Well-
still working on gathering that information.
If I may,
Yes.
reading the Greenwich time, the reason why the system is dead is because of lack of maintenance.
Well, that was one conclusion, and there's several different conclusions. If you
Let's
read-
not get into a debate back and forth on this issue. If you'd like to present something, go ahead.
No, I
And then
think
we
I-
need to move on.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for your time, and I'll keep working on it, and
Yeah.
I hope you will consider
Yeah. And,
investigating.
and Tucker, just so you're aware, every time, I get any information, that information is forwarded out to the committee. As I said, the one you sent me today, I haven't even looked at yet,
Yeah.
but it will go out to the committee.
Well, great.
I believe this, I don't remember if I forwarded this out already once before, but I had seen that. But,
Okay.
thank you.
The point is, these schools, perhaps they don't have a lot of problems, but they have information, probably a lot of information about how the maintenance is ongoing and what mistakes they've made or what wonderful conclusions they've reached.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate your input. All righty, approval of meeting minutes, December 14th. Do I have a motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed?
I wasn't here, so
Abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Action on submitted invoices. You have those in front of you. We take them one at a time, so, first one is for the Norton Elementary School, pre-construction services for O&G, $10,324. Do I have a motion? Dennis, a second? Second? Right? Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Second one is owner representative services, Arcadis, $7,150.81.
So
Do I have a motion? Second?
Sure, second.
Chris? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it's unanimous. Third is to architectural services, Tecton Architects, $84,010.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve, second? Second, Dennis, discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And the last one for Norton is environmental services to Eagle Environmental, $7,344. Do we have a motion? Dennis, second? Greg, any discussion?
Yeah, just
Yep.
curious, since they're not here in front of us, like the others, what have they done? Or is that gonna come up later in discussion? or-
No, so they're working on a report, the hazardous material report. So they've been out there, they took samples of the hazmat, they did testing of those samples. They're putting their report together. We should have that tomorrow, from what they told me. And part of it too is they did a phase 2 survey at Norton. It was part of their proposal. There's a phase 2 survey for North End. They didn't have to do hazmat because there's no buildings there. But that was separate because we only got the proposal for Norton. So the phase 2 on Eagles, the Eagles phase 2 for North End is gonna be under our contract because it was,
Yeah, that's fine. They're not in front of us. so-
yeah. They actually have a pretty detailed,
Yeah, they have a good schedule.
yeah, it's very detailed, so you can see, what they proposed and what's been built today.
Okay. For the North End Elementary School, pre-construction services, O and G.
We didn't have discussion, we didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't vote on the last one, okay, I'm sorry. Any other discussion on environmental services for Eagle Environmental? No? In that case, all those in favor? And it's unanimous.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine, got me off track. Pre-construction services, O and G, this is the North End School, $10,324. Do I have a motion? Dennis, second? Second?
Second.
Right, okay. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Owner representative services, Arcadis, $7,150.81. Once again, do I have a motion? Dennis, second?
Sure.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. And architectural services, Tecton Architects, $97,886. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you all. Chairman's report, just a couple of quick things, because we were on vacation, and there wasn't a whole lot going on our end over the last month, so, I was there. I did attend, very briefly, the inland wetlands meeting last week. It was not easy to hear, they were talking quietly up on the town council area there. So there was a motion made, the motion was approved, and so I walked out saying, good, our program has been approved. I then got the minutes of the meeting, which said that the motion that they had approved was to delay the decision for until their next meeting. We then attended a meeting today and were told that the minutes were wrong, that it actually had been approved. So I'm assuming that's it, and we're supposed to get something in writing to that effect, that it had been approved.
These words of the
Par
minutes.
for the course.
Yeah, we have not received the formal decision yet, but we were told in a meeting today that
Yeah.
it's forthcoming.
Yes, but I had forwarded the minutes to Justin saying they hadn't approved it, but, and I thought, because I couldn't hear all that well, I said, it's possible that I didn't pick up exactly what the motion was, so, anyway, so that was there. The second thing, which was the meeting that we held today, that wasn't here, but, and I'm sure, Justin may go into more detail on that, but we met today with many of the town officials, went through the inland wetlands and P&Z submittals, and a lot of the details that went along with that, heard any input that the town officials had, and any adjustments or clarifications that we needed to make, and just to make sure that hopefully that process goes as smoothly as it can when we get to P&Z and inland wetlands for Norton. We have an approval of the inland wetlands, I guess. Well, that was for North School, but we have yet to do the inland wetlands approval or presentation for Norton School. So that was, good meeting. It was about an hour and a half, I guess, and multiple officials from the town, and it was valuable. I did say to Justin afterwards, they have the plans that have been submitted to the town, and I said I'd like the committee to be able to get a set of those so that they can take a look at them. And I'm thinking maybe the next meeting we can walk people through those, because, there were a lot of details in there. For instance, they were talking about the phasing of the Norton project and where the temporary parking would be, and, things like that that we may not or have not really discussed yet at this point. So I want to make sure that, we're fully aware of everything that has been put together up to this point.
So I know we've placed them on the Google Share Drive.
It has been placed there?
Yes, but
Okay.
I need to confirm whether there's a couple different Cheshire Google Share Drives. I thought those were consolidated.
Yeah, I
into
went
one,
through
but-
that a while back, and
Yeah.
I never fully got, you know,
Yeah. If not,
verification.
there's about 80 megabytes of data because they're, for each application, because there are drainage reports, calculations and drawing sets. We'll double check that Google Drive, and failing that, we'll send you a FTP link to download the information.
Yeah, and then as I said, the next meeting, and I don't think necessarily we need to go through every single page of that, but I think the overall discussion about what's in the plans and the layout, and, to make sure the committee feels that they are fully aware of what's been presented to the town at this point. Okay, that's it on my end.
Rich,
Yeah.
on that, so you and I had some side conversations about the grade of the access road and
Yep.
whatnot. Is that something that you guys could maybe, I don't know if now's a good time or when you guys are up, if you can kind of show, I don't remember, I mean, I might have missed the meeting or wasn't paying attention or whatever, but I don't remember hearing about a 13% grade. And I'd like to know where that is and what, to me, that threw a red flag up in my head. So I'd like to see where the steep is.
Yep.
And for what vehicles are expected to be on that and so on. So when we get to it, if you guys
Sure.
could just take a minute and say it's this driveway here. And
Yeah, and this is North End. We don't have those type of, and we're under 10% for all of the grades.
Yeah, originally it was 13 and
Yeah.
they've adjusted it, so.
We think that we could do better, so that's what we're working with right now. So,
And I did take a ride up there yesterday because we had gotten a note from Sean Kimball about, here's a road that is approximately a 10% grade. So I took a ride up and checked it out, but, we'll see when you're on, maybe you can walk us through a little bit of what's taken place over the last month or so here as we've gone back and forth. Okay? Owner's rep, CM at risk, monthly schedule update. Laurel.
Okay, so I did not prepare a detailed update for you for this month, just because it was a quiet month in December. And really, it's just the local approvals, as well as the big deal is tomorrow, getting the DD set for North End. So I'll have an update either at the next meeting or the beginning of next month, whatever makes sense. I know
I
that
think you can do it the beginning of the next month.
beginning of next month, yeah,
Yeah.
because I was thrown into the tizzy of what was going on with the inland wetlands. Like, I heard that it wasn't approved, so I was like, oh, no, so.
And the schedule was clarified somewhat at our meeting today, so Justin has some new dates for you. if he
Right, so
hasn't
I
given
will
that to you
incorporate them
already.
for my next update, but there isn't much. I mean, the hazmat survey and the report, which Rich had already mentioned, was by the end of this week. And Rich can tell you what the update is for the structural threshold peer review and the local code review RFPs. Those are the only things besides the DD and the local approval, so there wasn't really much meat to give
And
you
no
this
impact
month.
on our
No
end
impact on your
dates, and
date as
that's
of
the
this
main
moment,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, and in fact, I was told that even though, we've pushed off a couple of the P and Z meetings, things like that, but we're still
It's
well
usually
within
not critical
the-
path, but still, we wanna keep an eye on it, we don't want any surprises towards the end, so.
Okay, thanks. Monthly budget,
Sure,
Rich?
okay, so, monthly budget. No encumbrances this month, we haven't purchased any services or goods. Yeah, right. We haven't purchased anything, in the past month, so the encumbrances haven't changed. The only thing that changes obviously is the approved invoices, which we track. And one thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is down on the construction manager, you can see that we have encumbered $4,191,000,000 on the North End School for construction, which we haven't started yet. So when I asked Emily in our office why that was, she explained that the town issued a purchase order for that value. So it's more than just pre-construction services. They actually have a purchase order for construction services.
Was that based on ONG's original?
It must have been based on the contract, so when the
So
contract
we
was
have a
presented-
contract with them,
Yeah,
so,
the proposal.
so you encumber the money, makes
Yeah,
sense.
That's right, okay. So that's it.
All right, any questions on the budget? All right. We have expended 1.06%.
That is right.
Do you wanna give us the date of the RFPs?
I will, yeah.
Alrighty, open item log?
Open item log, again, like Laurel said, I haven't printed off one because nothing really has changed. We didn't have any new open items from the past month, so I didn't print off a copy. We are working on some of the open items that were on the top of the list that we presented at the very first meeting that we presented the open items log. That's something that Tecton and their consultants are looking at as it relates to the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing, so on and so forth. So, and on that list, obviously, is the generators. So when we get to those items and we get resolution on those, I'll be able to make note in the open items file that sits on the Google Drive.
Yep,
So.
and that file is open to anyone to
That's
go
right.
on,
Yeah.
take a look
Yeah.
at any items that were on there that are closed or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's a live document. It's it's an Excel file or whatever Google converts it to. So you'll be able to see. You can open up and close it and so forth. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Just wondering if you could, I certainly appreciate the fact that there's no new and no changes, and so didn't feel there's any need to print. I just want to express that for me, it's helpful to see that, just so I can look, say.
The printed copy?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you could, just, and again, I understand, I'm not complaining, but it's one of those things that I can look at and say, gosh, these things, let's talk about it.
Sure.
So.
Yep.
that-
Understood.
Look, that's almost like a reminder sheet for me, if you don't mind, if
Yeah.
that's all right.
Yeah, I did make a copy for myself in case we did have things to add tonight. Chris, so if you'd like, I can give you that.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Just saying, in the future, that's just my mindset on that. It's helpful to me.
noted.
Update on potential grant from the Inflation Reduction
Okay.
Act. Rich?
So, Vin and I actually had a call with CLA earlier this week. They gave us a proposal, which you have in front of you. And they gave us an estimated range of services. As I mentioned the last time I talked about this, CLA wanted to do a phase 1 and a phase 2. So, the question was, does this represent phase 1 or is this the total? And as CLA came back to us and said, the phase 1 was more of an exploratory type of service, and we gave them a lot of information about the project that they felt that they didn't need to do any exploratory. They had some information on what the systems were and so on and so forth, and felt as though that was enough for them to understand that this was something worth pursuing, because based on what we gave them as far as estimates on geothermal and some of the other systems, that they felt that that there was a good chance that these qualified and that they would be able to pursue quite a bit more than what they would be charging in fee. So the range is between $40,000 and $60,000, depending on how much time they put into the effort. And you could see that they're estimating that at a minimum they think that there's like $1 million worth of tax credits, or actually they're direct payments because you don't get tax credits in a municipality. That would be coming back to the town.
Sean, you were gonna talk to the finance people on this, you ever get a chance to do that?
I have not, in any more depth than last time I was away the last month, so I'll follow.
What's the timeline on this, Rich?
So it's not critical. We explained to them that there's going to be a more detailed cost estimate that's going to come out in February, and we'd like to get that information to them. And at that point, maybe the building committee could take action on their proposal. They actually went a little further and said that the bulk of their service doesn't really take place until the project is kind of further along, and then they're pursuing the paperwork so that they can get these tax credits. I told them that it would be good for them to be involved early on in the process, because one of the things that they talked about was reviewing the specifications for domestic content, which could get us some additional rebates. So, as the specifications get prepared, that's something that they could review and maybe offer some guidance on.
So, if, I'm just curious about something, if I remember right, these rebates don't, they happen after a project is essentially closed, right?
So that, we got some more information on that too, Chris. What they said is that the rebates or the direct payments come back after the system is put in service. So let's say that the geothermal fields are done in the springtime of '26. That could be certified, and then that paperwork could be filed with the government for those rebates at that point. So, this committee is still going to be, active at that point, and should be able to see that those rebates coming back. Nobody knows how long it's going to take to get those rebates, but at least we'll be able to file that paperwork maybe in the springtime of 2026.
But the money, where does the money go? Is that, just in rough numbers, let's say it's $1 million check that comes in, is that now in our budget that we could build a new playground?
No, because
That's what I'm asking.
It goes to the municipality, right? So the municipality is the one that is the recipient of the tax credits.
So that's why you
it
gotta
could
wonder
be-
at some point, should the $40,000 to $60,000.
That's what I'm saying, do they want, does the town
come
want to
from our
invest?
budget, or?
Because otherwise, we're taking away playground equipment to do this, to go into the town for something else. Whereas, I don't know that we should be taking budget money away from school systems to
I mean, it's
invest in the future that we're never gonna realize with the school. So that's, I don't know if that's something to talk to the council about, to see if the
We
council
certainly can, yeah.
wants to invest 60,000 to possibly receive $1 million.
Yeah, I
Or
can talk
more.
it, I can talk it over with them for sure. The one, so it'll be ultimately, the council's the appropriating body, so they can decide what to do with it. If it is grant proceeds, it could be appropriated back to this project without necessitating going to referendum, only because it is grant, it's grant or credit proceeds, it's not additional tax dollars. So that's an option, but to the point being made, we won't know that until such timeline as it's probably, we're not holding off on
However,
playground
we
equipment.
are limited with the state to the 166 million unless we go back to the state.
In terms of what's reimbursable, right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
That would be a question.
But if the
for
town
bond
wanted
council.
to put solar arrays on the building after it was all done, put money into
Right.
increasing the fields or,
Maintain the geothermal on Lake Greenwich.
yeah, whatever, so they could do that. The other piece, which, keep in mind, we have a separate grant with Eversource. And that's also, they're projecting about $1 million, 500 for each school. And that, you have to finish the building, and then they go through and they do a certification process, and have to show that we've met certain guidelines, and then we get that money. So that would happen.
Then Sean gets that money.
Sean gets that money, yeah, he personally gets that
Right to
money.
Sean. But the town gets the money. Now, it doesn't come to the committee, just because by then we're already
That's right.
commissioned.
That's right.
So-
The difference with the Eversource ones, it didn't cost us anything, because it was built into the contract that Tecton and Coleman Ronan had. So we weren't putting anything out front, we're just getting $1 million plus back.
Sure.
Whereas this one, somebody's gotta come up with that 40 to 60 grand.
But that $1 million, and again, nothing's guaranteed exact, but rough numbers,
Right.
that $1 million certainly could help pay for the 60,000 here, because then that money, the 60 we invest here also goes back to the town. So you got money going to the town, and then the town essentially investing based on that.
Yeah.
And then nothing comes out of school programs. This $60,000 buys $60,000 worth of something.
Well, that's why I think it is important that we have a conversation with the town, because we don't have to make any kind of decisions right now. But I agree with you, it's, if the town is going to see, and from what I can understand, there's no real risk here. The town says, let's invest $40,000 to $60,000, and we're almost 100% guaranteed of seeing $1 million or more come back, well worth it. And as you say, if we take that 40 to 60, we very well could be taking it out of, and we don't know what our, estimates are gonna show in a few weeks from now, where our
Right,
budget
who's to
is
say we're
at.
not over, so another 60 on top.
Right.
Right, exactly, that's something else that has to be cut. So, yeah, so how does that, is that something you can present, or do we need to, as
I'll
a
take it to the
committee?
council. Yeah, I'll start with the council chairman and kind of brief him on
Okay.
It seems reasonable, it's not like we're asking something that's,
Yeah.
you know.
And I have to do a
negative.
presentation to the town council
Yeah.
once a month. I may bring it up at that time,
Yeah.
that this is part of what we've been looking into, and we would like to have further discussion with the town council.
We have a
about
meeting
it.
this Tuesday, I'm not sure if it's on your
I
schedule.
will let you know in a minute. I
All right,
think
cool.
so, unless you've changed the
It
time.
moved a little only because it's the third Tuesday instead of the second Tuesday.
Okay. Rich, thank you very much, and thank you to Vin also, who's been
Yeah.
involved with this. Dennis?
Quick question, is the money contingent on Buy America?
No,
Okay.
it's not. Because I also realized that a lot of, a lot of the equipment that is being specified isn't made in America, so. What that does though, Dennis, is the Buy America contingent actually, I think, increases the credits.
Great, thank you.
So town council I have down for the 16th, right?
Correct, 16, yes.
Update on the RFQ/P for third-party code review,
Yes.
third-party structural peer review.
So we put the RFPs out on December 20th, and within a day or so, we got some responses on structural peer review, but nothing on third-party code review. So we reached out to Tecton, they gave us some names that we could reach out to, and we got some response back from those third-party consultants. Since that time, and I was speaking with Jeff on Monday, we've actually gotten a few more responses. So I think, you know, the holidays are over, people are starting to see these solicitations are out in the public realm, and so therefore, you know, we do have some people. Although this is due on the 17th, so that's next Wednesday, in the town manager's office. I will be there for the opening. We are opening, right?
Yep, oh yeah.
Okay. So we have, we had 7 interested parties on the structural peer review and 4 interested parties on the third-party consulting. Interestingly enough, one of the structural peer reviews, solicitation was from Toronto. So usually a lot of these are local structural engineers that provide the service, but seems like a big firm. They obviously caught sight of it and are interested in providing a proposal. So we'll see if they submit.
We'll have to do it in metric.
That's right.
Could you make all those changes for us?
Do we have a list of the firms, or?
I can read them off if you're interested.
I'm curious.
Yeah, on the structural peer review side, GNCB, E2, PES, SKF, Thornton Tomasetti, Intuitive is the firm out of Canada, and Colliers out of Western New York. So it's not the Colliers that you guys use, but a different Colliers. Probably still part of the same company. And then on the third-party review side, Joe Versteeg. A lot of these guys are one-man operations. Joe Pierce, although Joe declined, he wasn't interested. C Corps, we got that information from Tecton, and then AKF.
Thank you.
Austin.
And there's no guarantee that all those people will.
There's no guarantee that they will submit. As a matter of fact, Collier said that based on the information that I responded to, they're not interested in submitting, so.
Okay. So you think you may have recommendations for us at our next meeting?
Yes, at the next meeting, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? All right, moving right along. Architects, emergency power, further discussion regarding generators at the 2 schools and battery backup. We have covered 2 different issues.
Okay, so we have John O'Connell from Kohler Ronan. Here, John is project manager at Kohler Ronan, as well as he's an electrical engineer by trade. So Craig is under the weather. I don't know if everybody else is experiencing this wave of stuff going around, but yeah, okay. I didn't even register there. So John is filling in for Craig. So what John has put together here is a narrative of the, as we're approaching completion of design development, we've been able to hone in a little bit more on the loading for the basis of design emergency generators, what that covers, as well as what if we wanted to say provide cooling or additional. So I think, John, if you want to take it from there, I think this is relatively good news over what we discussed at the last meeting regarding sizing of generators for carrying significantly more backup power. So, and John can also speak to, Chris, one of your questions or comments for the north end regarding having battery backup for emergency lighting as well. That goes beyond the standby generator. So take it away, John.
Evening. So I'm starting with the north end right up, and I was out for quite a while, so when I came back, Craig explained to me that we're doing comparison and trying to get the generators, which have crept up to 1.25 meg to 1.5 to get it back down to 1,000 kVA or better. So we went through the mechanical loads, and we came up with the terms heating only and heating and cooling, because in the heating mode, compressors on the equipment are turned off, so it's significantly less. And as we indicate, life safety loads will be the emergency lighting, fire alarm system, and then your standby loads will be all the receptacles throughout the building, because I believe it was requested that the school operate as if there wasn't a power outage, and I believe that's how it's operated throughout the other Cheshire schools. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was.
I think we should get clarification. I don't remember that it
Vin was talking
always-
about that last time, but I don't.
Yeah, that's what he indicated,
That's-
that's how they operate, so that's how we move forward. I don't know if there's some schools that might be legacy that aren't there, but the newer schools, I believe, operate that way, and that's kind of
We
what
don't have
we
any
cast
newer
with.
schools in Cheshire.
We are the newer school.
He's got
right
some
now.
portable generator systems that he runs around,
Correct.
and I guess did he say they were putting in a permanent generator at Highland? And I think at the high school he had a front and a back system. I don't know, Vin and
High school
Rich Clare.
has two services.
Yeah.
But I think we should, if you could confirm, or if you want me to write something to confirm with Vin, because if the policy is that a new school should be able to operate as if it's full power and you lose power, then we're deficient on the Norton, because that doesn't have all receptacles throughout. It
Don't
only
get
has
ahead of the
them.
punchline, Chris. You're getting ahead of the punchline, let me
Just
build.
reading what I'm seeing.
No, let's say the north end.
And
Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think, I don't think Vin said that it had to operate like it was a normal day.
Right.
He said that it had to be that we could keep the kids safe and contained and deliver them
That's
back
what I
home safely.
recall. I don't recall all receptacles, so.
Yeah, they want to finish the day.
Yeah,
and
so
then-
he was saying, if every computer wasn't operating, that wasn't a big deal, but he was saying obviously they would need lights, they would need to be able to keep the students in the school functioning for the day, if the power went out.
So that's what we have here, maybe worded improperly, but that was the intent. Now that you've clarified it, I agree with you.
But I'll clarify that with Vin. He's involved also with the budget hearing today with Dr. Solon.
So we have as, continuing on, what isn't life safety lighting would be the remainder of the lights under standby load. Item 2 would be on information technology rooms, associated HVAC to keep them going. Kitchen refrigeration equipment only, not the cooking equipment. HVAC require occupiable temperature and ventilation throughout the building so that the students are comfortable. Heat, water pumps, and associated equipment, and the elevator. So the result of having those loads would be an 800 kW generator at 86% loaded.
Is there any hot water in the kitchen area that would be on the generator? Is there any means to make hot water?
The hot water is item 6. We have,
Is that heating hot water, or is
no,
that
that's
potable?
domestic. That's domestic. Yeah.
Okay, that answers the question.
Yeah, we have heating elements and tanks that was able to provide the water. I think there were 18 kW elements that we incorporated in.
That's just for the kitchen, right?
No, it's domestic throughout the building.
Just the
We have
whole building?
Yeah, because we have water pumps, and then we also have backup water tanks, as I understand it. So we have the water tanks, which is slightly less load, that provides the hot water that we can use during this issue.
What is spec'd right now? 1,000?
The SD was based on the 1,000.
Yes.
1,000,
1,000,
okay.
So
So
now-
you're suggesting that we could go from 1,000 to 600, or
800.
800 rather,
Correct, if
And-
you didn't want cooling.
if we didn't want cooling. And do you have any idea of approximately what the dollar difference is between 800 and 1,000.
I think the 1,000 kW I saw price was 465, 456.
Or something.
Yeah, and I don't recall the.
No, we've done anything with an 800.
Yeah.
We haven't done anything with an 800.
So we don't know what the price difference would be.
I could.
But if the north end is gonna be a warming/cooling center,
Well, this is just for Norton. Oh, no,
No,
this is
this is
North
North
End.
End.
Oh, this is North End.
Heating only
we would want
for the warming center.
the generator to operate the cooling.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a warming center.
It's also the cooling center.
I don't know, I think
Is
that's
it?
a topic for conversation.
I don't remember ever hearing this, right now, you saying that is the first time I've heard anything about cooling. I mean,
You
Open
have
the
an
window, plug in
emergency
some
in
fans.
town, you want a place where people can come, not be freezing to death, have,
The emergency could be in August.
yeah, but is there a life safety issue with somebody not having air conditioning?
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah,
Elderly.
yeah.
And if they had
We
the
had a cooling
students in
center
there, and
in
that's
the
why we
summer.
did it as an option, if they had the students in there working through the rest of the day, and it was September, May, that's why we offered up the cooling, we have the loads, and then you'll see that item 5 changes to have and cooling throughout the building.
In August of '20, we opened Highland School as a cooling and charging center after Storm Isaiah.
I mean, in my mind, if we had 1,000 in the budget, and the 1,000 buys us cooling,
well, that's why I was asking the price difference. Because I remember when we were doing the original budget discussion, after schematic design, it wasn't a huge savings to eliminate the generator altogether. I think it was like 140,000 or something.
That's, no, the generator itself is $500,000 just for the device itself, so to eliminate it, plus the labor, plus all of the gear that goes with it and all that, you're looking at probably a couple million.
I thought I had that.
Talking about it was on the value management
Yeah.
list that wasn't accepted.
all those old papers we were gonna throw away.
Those piles.
And I was like,
Let's see,
where did you
eliminating
pull that from?
requirement for warming center to reduce, this is North End? Yeah, this is North End. To reduce the generator to 450, we would save 190,000.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever to get rid of it altogether. It might have been just to reduce it.
Yeah, this reduced it from 1,000 to 450, and we would save 190,000. So to reduce it from 1,000 to 800, if that's a real number, we're probably only saving $40,000, $50,000.
I don't know that it's that linear.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, this is way out of my league, but it doesn't sound like we're talking huge amounts of money to go from an 850 to a 1,000.
So that cooling is for the entire building, not just the front portion.
Correct. It's rolling through, as is the heating.
That's not that complicated, but if it was used as a cooling center, you'd probably just use the front half of the building.
You only need it where, right.
Well, I think it's the dual, what I was hearing is students in getting them through the rest of the day, but then do they come back the next day?
No.
So it's
No
the power,
power.
it's just to get you through, get you out, and then when the power comes back, you come back.
So you would need your ventilation, because that's code required.
Correct.
You'll need heat, obviously.
Mhm.
You don't need cooling.
That's correct. You don't need it, but we just did an analysis, say if we had the 1,000 kW, then you can have the cooling, and that's what's budgeted.
So I think what we're trying to refine right now is what it really should be for the optimal design.
Yeah,
And what
even
we're
if
saying
you,
for the optimal design, we don't need to cool parts of the building that aren't gonna have people in it because it's not part of a cooling center.
yeah, but
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
cooling the big volume, so you're not gonna get back to the 800.
It's true, yeah.
You're probably gonna be 900,
Yeah, and they come in incremental, so.
right?
Yeah.
So
You can't get just a little
Yeah,
bit
there's
more.
not that dial that, you know, you.
999
You know, but I hear you, okay, but we only get to 900 there, but then if we only provide hot water for the kitchen where you need it, well, maybe we're now down at 875. And if we don't do all the receptacles, we do this. And then when we,
Fair
so,
enough.
why not be efficient with the design? It's, again, we just talked about 60,000 or 40,000 that we didn't want to waste on an investment because it takes away from school systems. if we could save $60,000, we could save $10,000 by refining the generator, why wouldn't we want to? $10,000 buys a copier. Why wouldn't we wanna do that? So, I mean, what's the resistance to have an efficient design and to not have things on the generator that just don't need to be on the generator? Why would we be resistant to that?
You tell me, you make the decision.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I think we
Yeah.
should be efficient with it,
But
right?
for me, I don't have any numbers in front of me, so it's hard
What's,
for me
what's
to
the
be
next
making
step down from
decisions.
1,000?
It's the 800. In the basic design that we're using, if you get different manufacturers, they might be incrementally in there, but
You're only looking at one piece of it. You're only looking at one piece of it.
No,
You're
I
looking
get
at the
that.
generator. The transfer switch gets smaller. The size of the distribution panels gets smaller. The amount of panels you need that are on the generator might be reduced or might get smaller. So it cascades out. So it's not so, if, I'm one guy.
But you're one guy who has expertise in this area.
I like to think so. It might be the only thing I do. But yeah, so I mean, I'd like to think that maybe we could refine it a little bit. And just in general too, I remember the correspondence the Vin had sent, or you had sent to us from Vin or whatever, that there was some discussion after the meeting that
That's-
with
That was dealing with the battery backup.
which ties to this very closely.
And
So-
actually, I think I sent that out to everyone in this.
Right, I believe
packet.
so. So if all the lights, if batteries are required for all the lights, that satisfies our life safety. We
on
can
the
get,
emergency lighting.
right, so we can get rid of that transfer switch, we can put the inverter on standby, the inverter satisfies life safety. If batteries in the fire alarm, that satisfies the life safety, we can get rid of the whole transfer switch and a whole set of distribution, right? So we could just have standby, your life safety is your
Well,
inverter,
you-
that
no,
satisfies the
slow.
inverter.
Let's see. So you have your life safety transfer switch goes away, you would have your life safety panels go away, you would have, since the emergency battery in the fixture is your primary source for the emergency lighting.
Or the inverter, if we go with an inverter, but whatever.
Apparently inverters were, I was told, were out because of space requirements that we don't have. So we went to batteries in fixtures. Craig had mentioned that, came out of the last meeting.
So, didn't you and I have a little sidebar discussion that space wasn't really gonna be a problem if we had to put inverters in?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The decision's been made between the inverter and batteries, yeah. It depended on the size of what, after you sized it, so.
Who made the decision?
I don't know who made the decision.
I don't
Just
think
debriefed
it was
me,
made
just tell
yet,
me that.
yeah.
I mean, we can revisit it, and we can go back to space proofing. I'm not arguing against it, but anyway, either way, battery in the fixture or an inverter, yes, that's your primary, and then your standby transfer switch would back that up, so you're correct, the life safety would go out. Now, I bring this up just from experience, that maintenance of batteries, if they're in the fixture, not always done.
Correct, that's why I'm saying inverter is.
And
the
I
way to
agree
go.
with you, because that's, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our.
I figured
if
you would.
don't want generator, we go to inverters, because it's a one, everybody familiar with the inverter?
No.
So instead of having a battery in the select emergency fixtures, they generally don't get maintained because how many of those do you have throughout the building? So someone's got a ladder up and down every 3 to 5 years. So instead of having that, you put the batteries into a cabinet, and the cabinet distributes out to the select emergency fixtures. So when it comes time to replace the batteries, generally you call the vendor, he comes into one cabinet, opens it up, swaps it, puts it back. We're not up and down with an A-frame ladder all over the building. So it's just much better. So if, on our projects, and I'm sure Chris does that as well from what he said, if a generator is not warranted for whatever reason, an inverter is your next recommendation from the engineers. And then you'll recommend the battery in the fixture, and some architects don't like wall packs, so generally that's the last thing on it.
So,
So,
right,
yeah.
let me ask this, since we're having this discussion, how long does the battery service the light? In the event of a power outage, if this building is being used as a warming center, for a week?
So the generator would come on, and the battery in the fixture or an inverter, or the same thing, those lights would stay on when the generator comes up to speed within 10 seconds. then the generator's providing the power, the battery's sitting there. What Chris and I had discussed, and we've done in other projects, is let's say the generator then goes out, either
Right.
breaks or we run out of fuel. Now people gotta get out. So by code, you have to have an hour and a half to get people out of the building, and then we're done, let the doors can't go back.
Great.
So it's the fact that you're keeping people in the building when you've had a utility outage. That is the interesting part of the project.
And it's only gonna be in the front half of the building.
No.
No.
Vin wants
You
the whole
would.
building, that's a policy, is that all lights are in the batteries. Even at, he's mentioned that even at the high school where they have generators, they still have batteries.
Well, because
So-
he wants all the students to be able to stay in
But-
for
For the rest of the day.
But hear me out. You have a generator, power goes out, school's in session, the generator kicks on, everything works for the rest of the day, kids go home. It's an extended power outage, and now the building is gonna be used as a cooling warming center. So now, you only need to, in my opinion, deal with the front half of the building, right?
So,
So
For
how you
the
do,
cooling warming center, yes.
and so, in the scenario where now they're using it for day 3 of using it as a cooling warming center, the generator goes out. That front half of the building where there's toilets or smaller spaces, you have to have the lights click on so that they can get outside until they fix the generator or fill it back up.
Correct.
So to me, those are two different
I think I can
scenarios
answer that, if you
that
don't
you
mind,
have to wire.
if you don't mind, let me try and take a stab at this one, if you don't mind. So, couple of things there. So first off, the entire lighting for the entire building is maybe, with all the LEDs, is maybe 30 kW all of them on. So it's not that much of a load, and since it's something that will be used by everyone in the building, it's not uncommon to have all the lights on the generator, all right? Now, there are selected lights that need to be emergency, that would be on what we're calling the inverter for everybody here. And it's a special, it's called a lighting inverter for those that aren't aware. It's UL 924 is the listing, and it requires, if it has that listing, it requires that it will function for the 90 minutes in neat code. So if the generator goes out, it's gonna stay on 90 minutes. Everything that's connected to it will stay on for 90 minutes. So you have one big battery unit, and those 3 lights in the corridor instead of the 12 lights will be on to give you lighted passage out of the building. That overall in the building is maybe a third or less, so that's like a 10 kW. The impact of that, to not do the whole building, you might as well, somebody might be somewhere else. So in my mind, if you're gonna do it, let's just do the whole thing. The emergency would only need to be the ones that are required to be emergency, that would be on the inverter, and the inverter would be on the generator. So you're not draining those batteries while the generator's running, it stays charged. And then if the generator runs out of fuel, now you've got your 90 minutes to get out of the building.
So this is above and beyond code though, right, because of the generator?
Yep. Well, it's above and beyond code, but it's exactly on par with town standard that Finn had told us. So this is doing what the town wants. It meets code. But with the generator, it's above and beyond. You could just have the inverter and not have the generator at all connected to it, or not even have the generator one bit. It's a best practice that if you're gonna have the generator and you have the inverter, you have the inverter on the generator just to keep everything going.
All right, so where are we back now at the 850 versus?
The 800 versus the
Or 800
1,000.
versus 1,000
The-
generator?
If I may, let's try this out. We understand what the requirements are. We know that the requirements fit within the basis of design emergency generator, 1 megawatt generator. We can make an effort, understanding the criteria that we just went over for what is covered. We can see how, if we can incrementally get down below the 1,000 kW generator, right? I mean, it sounds like, I think this committee needs to decide what is on emergency power. We're telling you that everything is, that we think the town wants can fit in the basis of design generator.
Right.
we can work as a team to see whether or not through this rolling, or the idea that we know that perhaps cooling only needs to be part of the front of the area in the event that the building's used as a cooling center. We can see whether or not we can have a reduction from that 1,000 kW.
Yeah, I never thought a 1 megawatt was correct.
Yeah, well, you've raised that
The
for-
very first meeting I was here, I brought that up. I just,
Well, we're
and I
not
don't
that,
think you'll, I don't think
we're
you'll
not
find
that
it-
far off from,
I don't think you'll find an elementary school in the state of Connecticut, maybe New England, without some real special circumstances that has a 1,000.
I agree with you.
It's
What
huge
is
for
a-
an
what
What does
elementary
Oxford
school.
Middle School have?
They all electric?
Because I remember
That
just
was
pointing that one out.
As opposed to
when we-
oil and
it was
oil
about,
or
I believe it
natural
was a
gas,
450
mechanical, which
kW, but
actually drives the load.
it's a different,
That was the one thing I agreed with you.
Different system.
it's a
But
different
being all
system that
electric,
uses fossil
I'm not sure
fuels
if that's a
for
new concept that-
Still the need,
heating.
though, you know?
That's, once you,
I don't know.
once you're powering your ventilation equipment and your cooling equipment via electricity,
That's
you're,
the difference.
that's the difference between, say, the Oxford Middle School that has a 450
And
kW
Brookfield,
generator.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've introduced the idea of a cooling center, which hadn't been mentioned before. So how do we validate that that's a warranted item? Are we deciding, am I being directed that that is something the cooling center wants?
Well, I think that's a town and a school decision. You know, the town would be operating the heating center, or cooling center as it might be, and obviously the school system has requirements, you know, and their requirement is we want to be able to keep kids in for a full day. If the electricity goes off at 9 in the morning, we want to be able to keep them in the whole day and not have to send them home.
Okay.
That was their focus. But in terms of, you're saying that Highland is heating and
So
cooling?
I think cooling center, heating center is much more common. The situation with Storm Isaias was unique, pretty rare, but it does happen. I would say more than, and it all depends on the particulars of the storm. It was humid for a few days after that. It wasn't terribly bad, but it became a charging center more than I guess just to get out of the heat. Cooling center, but we also have library and we have other places that people can go to make use of that. Highland served fine for that. I mean, again, every storm is different. Highland happened to come back on power. Yes, Highland does not have a generator now, but it has hookups to the portable trailer, one of our 3 portable trailer generators there, and powered it for the first 2 days. But yeah, I think this day and age, people quickly need internet and power in addition to being comfortable. But I think the heat, it's more dangerous in situations where we have to activate
But
a
if
power,
we had
don't have heat.
an August storm,
Yeah.
and it was, 95 degrees out for a week, and people had no, would you want that building or that area at least where people were sheltering to have some cooling capacity?
I think the question is.
Perfect world, yes.
I think the question is, did the school modernization committee deem that that was necessary enough to put it in the ed specs? Because that's what we're charged with doing.
I don't know what the ed specs call for there. Do they even mention the whole
No. I don't remember.
cooling center?
So
I don't
cooling center's
think-
not in there, so,
No.
so.
There's a warming center in there?
It was as a option.
I don't, is it? in there?
Warming, it said
It is.
something like to consider the option of making it a warming center.
The other thing that I would be curious about is typically when you think about cooling centers, it's not specifically for emergency power outages within the town.
Right.
Typically, cooling centers are open when you have a heat wave, 100-degree temperatures for individuals that don't have air conditioning in their own homes,
Right.
to be able to go someplace where there's cooling.
So we do that. What we activate is we have our library. We do it, basically notify people, usually during just regular business hours, that the library is available. All these places have air conditioning and they can get out, because typically by the evening, again, it's a little less hot. Go back to Depends on the situation, but that's correct. Again, in some ways, also worth noting, Highland School worked for this, and it's centrally located, more so than the North End School for sure. So if you had a large power outage in the south end, it's a little more convenient to get to Highland School than it is to go to Jarvis, but again, everything's,
I mean, if we're gonna do it to benefit the town, then let's, you know, if it is just an incremental step in the generator to allow that and it benefits the town, the generator. What's the difference if the school bus has another row of
We're
seats?
putting a bigger inverter.
No, we're not. The emergency lighting stays the same throughout the school regardless.
No, it's just on the mention of the receptacles
Oh, okay.
and the lighting. I'm totally fine with making this into a cooling center
Yeah.
and keeping the 1,000 kilowatt.
So what I'm hearing is I'll walk back to Craig and ask if we don't have cooling for the whole building, just the area that was
Right.
previously being the warming center, does that change the mechanical equipment operation, or, you know, are we just one more unit, more or less, whatever, and then we'll run through the generator cycle, and hopefully that will put it to bed.
Yeah, what I think I'm hearing is exactly what you said, but another layer of that would be, again, just to bring down the costs, would be what we talked about with the transfer switch. You know, so you only have just your standby, so we can realize some savings there, which might be offset with the inverter, but the inverter is a requirement by the town. All receptacles, I don't believe that was a requirement, so it would be selected receptacles, which, you know, is gonna be something.
It will be, when do we determine which receptacles those are?
Would
How
they
much
be the
can
ones
we-
that are just in the front, just trying to keep everything in the front? Or no?
There might be a few here and there where you have something that's, I mean, you're gonna want to, well, I think we said everything in the IT rooms. There might be a couple miscellaneous refrigerators, the
Maybe
nurse
kitchen,
area, the nurse is gonna
kitchen.
want it.
Board of Ed is the admin area
few.
and nurses area.
Yeah. But that's, I mean,
So the warming area,
that's
so
a
we're
minor
looking at
thing,
maybe
that's,
the
I
classroom
don't think that's gonna
receptacles?
trip you. I don't know that we would need any.
That's why I
to be
kinda
honest
had it
with
in
you.
there saying.
I thought we
take
said
out
last time that we don't need any receptacles in there.
In whatever the classroom.
Yeah.
Oh, and that may be, but if we had them in, I think that because we don't have the inrushing mechanical loads, Chris, it didn't really impact sizing.
Okay.
So,
And is there also a way to own, just like the cooling center would be, the cooling would only be in the front area? See if there's a way, and I don't know if with the systems we have, there is a way, but if there is a way so that we're only providing hot water to the kitchen.
to the kitchen for,
Because we would only care about hot water during a power outage for warming the cooling center.
so we have domestic water for people using the bathrooms. And then in the kitchen, it would be to wash whatever was distributed for food. Because we're not having cooking equipment and so forth, it's just the refrigeration, but if you're
Maybe
serving.
you need to clean a knife or a tool or whatever it
Sandwiches or
is.
something like that,
You need
yeah.
to wash your hands, you need to, yeah, so the kitchen would need it.
Right, and that may be the part that, I'll double check with plumbing, that may be the item that says, heat pump water heaters and associated equipment, that might already be in there.
Yeah, but I don't know if we need it for the whole school or not, or if it makes a difference. You know, if you've got one big heating plant and that does all water everywhere, then of course, it's all water everywhere.
Right.
I just don't know that all the kids' bathrooms need it for an extended outage, need to have hot water in the sink to
Right, I
wash your
think
hands when they.
What we did is we went off the water heat pumps for the domestic and just went to electric tanks, more or less, I remember 18 kW was the number we used on those, to get you through, providing domestic water for the bathrooms that'll be used, and like you said, the kitchen that might wash something. So we're at minimum, I mean, believe me, we have gone through this, there's been more hours of discussion in our office of paring back, minimizing, and talking with the town to, as best we can, you know, understand flexibility, so.
Understood, this is just the first time it's been that granular for me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Can I read the head specs just for 1 second? Emergency whole building generator to accommodate life safety needs. Generator must be sufficient to support critical IT equipment in MDF and all IDFs, as well as administrative offices and nurse's office. Generator must support critical kitchen equipment with the intention being to cook, serve, and store foods, hoods, ovens, serving line, freezer, refrigeration, etc. Generator must support critical HVAC systems with priority to heating systems. Consider battery storage as an option for backup power. Classroom space power distribution shall consider isolated ground circuits for smart boards, work centers, computer labs, and charging stations. That's North End. It doesn't say anything about heating, or, heating center or anything.
You know, and that's, and I had probably 10 questions on that whole thing, because if you say whole building generator, then you don't need to say we need to have it sized for this, that, and the other thing, because you said size of a whole building, so.
Yeah.
And whole building seems ludicrous to me.
Yeah, there was some-
Isolated ground receptacles, have you done that since 1970?
No,
So-
there are some conflicts in that.
Right.
As we read through it, and everything, except for the isolated ground, but for what's on the generator, we have, except for the cooking equipment of the kitchen. We were told that not to have cooking equipment. We're providing best sandwiches.
Talked about that last meeting, we agreed to that.
So,
Because that's a major
Right,
issue,
I
I guess.
understand. Right, so just, that's the only thing that, from what I heard, from everything you said, that's not there, and I believe it's.
The
all
whole
been
building
agreed
is
upon.
also not there, which I think, we agree, that's.
Well,
a
I think
I think
that
it said whole building.
For
lighting.
emergency services,
Or
whole building
emergency
for
lighting.
emergency services.
Emergency whole building generator to accommodate life safety needs.
So I took that as emergency lighting and fire alarm, not everything is brother. yeah.
Right, so that could be a 50.
All right, so are we clear and in agreement in terms of North End School? Chris, are you okay at this point?
Yeah, just with the questions they're gonna go back and look at.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just look at the HVAC to see if we do what previously was the warming center, or do now the cooling center, as opposed to air conditioning throughout, does that have an impact?
And the committee owes them an answer as to all receptacles.
Yeah, if you want receptacles in the classrooms, because you get to a point where you jump to the next size, you have this spare capacity that you can't avoid, so why not have the benefit of having the receptacles in the classrooms? But if you say, well, John, that's nice you have the benefit, but we don't want it, that's fine. Easy
Well,
like Sunday morning.
If you
I'm
can
okay.
do it and it doesn't cost anything, then great.
And that's how we viewed it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're gonna see in the Norton,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
has
that's,
A, B, C.
right. So let's talk Norton.
Okay. So Norton seems more complicated, but it was the part where we have, so we have heating only, that's 450, which was the original start. And Craig had mentioned that we're trying to target to get back to that, to have the 450. Okay. So that's your current design heating only. Now, if we flip the
And
page.
emergent, and fire alarm system, life safety.
Correct, correct, so
It's
that's.
all the things we talked about for north, except cooling.
Correct. So that's the first one is the current heating, we have heating only, because that's what we have for the building to maintain it for the occupied. Students are there and then they're out, but we still have to maintain temperature. And even the rolling temperature is about the same, so, for freeze protection?
Sure, so, I mean, is there a need to look at others, options? Because this isn't considered for warming or cooling, correct?
This building was not
Yeah.
talked about to be a warming center, no.
I think what you have for the current design is spot on. for,
Okay, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
Because the high school
The
is a
school is
warming center,
expected.
right, Sean?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there was never discussed that Norton should need to be designed as a warming center.
High school's the emergency shelter.
Yeah.
My only comment to this would be what we discussed as far as the transfer switch and stuff would apply, the inverter would apply here as well.
Correct. They're part and parcel similar.
Otherwise, I agree with Jeff that the current design is right on.
Right, so we're not having cooling, the kids are out that day, they can suffer through the rest of the day, Lord knows we did. Open the window if you don't like it, said Sister Mary.
The windows do open, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one window, I think, that opens in each room.
We had them to clap the erasers, so. So then the only thing was the alternate design A. When we say full building receptacles, again, we had this benefit, but it jumped into the 600 kW. You tell me you don't want all the receptacles, the kids don't have them in the classroom, we're at the 450, sold. Sounds good?
So that answers our question as to what the benefit is if we don't do all receptacles, it's 150 kW.
Schools are a slightly different size. The sizes of the generators at certain increments, you know, you go from an 800 to a 1,000.
Which is the bigger school?
North End.
North End.
So if it's 150 kW saving at Norton, you're talking
Where are
about
you
60
getting
or
the
160.
150 then?
because you went from a 450 to a 600 by
Right.
adding all receptacles.
Right,
and
but
was
that
the only
doesn't mean
change.
that's what the load is, that's the sizes that they come in. So when you get to an 800, you jump to 1,000, we could say, oh, I saved 200 kilo in receptacles. That's not the load, that's just the incremental sizes.
So if it went from 400 to 500, you'd have to jump up.
Someone
to-
would say, I saved 100 kilos, unfortunately, these are the sizes they come
Yeah,
in.
you'd have to
And they
jump up.
vary as you go up the scale. So if we don't want receptacles, we only want them as indicated in the admin and nurse area as per the Board of Ed, then that's what we'll have, you have the 450, and you're good. I just wanna make sure everybody's clear because now, from experience, the end user, how does this information move over to Vin and move to the principal and all the parties over there?
I will contact, unless you want to do it, I will.
Yeah, we can have.
Because I want to make sure the end user's expectations are very clear.
Yeah, they were involved heavily in this discussion last meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they have a budget hearing tonight, so both Jeff Sullivan and Ben are involved with that, so.
Because I have had conversations where the end users went, our expectation was just like this, and then there's a
They've been involved.
Oh, believe me, in your meetings,
Yep.
you've used everybody that's.
Vin has been at every meeting, even though he's not on the committee, he comes to every meeting. He's
Okay.
been like a committee member here, and he's very involved with the working group. which
Yes,
is discussed
I've
a lot.
attended those meetings, and everybody who's going to be in the building was on it, but I just want to make sure we had experiences
And
where they
he's
weren't.
brought Rich Clevitt into a lot of those discussions.
Yes.
So I'll contact him tomorrow.
Okay.
Explain what the issue is best I can. He may then contact you to get
Sounds
more
good.
clarification.
I'll talk to Rich.
Okay.
So heating only, 450, that's the choice.
Yep.
And the other one, and with the caveats, Chris, as you said about the transfer switches.
Yeah, just button that up, why not? Sure. Because we know that, again, the end user wants the battery backup, and it just doesn't make sense to have it in the lights.
Okay, so on that one, and on North End, I will check with Craig about the impact of the selective cooling areas.
So the issue with Norton is it's either a 450 without the receptacles, or if you want the receptacles in the classrooms, it jumps up to the 600. And that's the only real question for Ben.
That was it.
That wasn't an issue though for North End.
Hold on.
We only have one story at Norton?
Two.
They're all two-story buildings.
We don't have the elevator on in Norton.
Oh, we gotta have the elevator,
Elevator? I will add that in.
yeah.
Where does
You've
600
got kids
work?
in that building all day, you've gotta have that elevator operated, have handicapped kids.
Unless there's an egress path on the upper level and lower level, is there?
No.
There's not.
So
No.
And I'll see what impact that has.
we would want to.
But even with that, you know, you don't want kids going from one level to another, have to go outside and come around with wheelchairs, I've had to do that.
Go off when I should pay. All right? That's all I had. Are there any more questions or anything on the operation of
No,
the
I'm
building?
gonna turn to Chris and just make sure you're okay, because I had you down also, because you had raised, you know, questions. Have all your questions been answered at this point?
Yeah, I just would like to, once we button it all up, if we could just present again, just to make sure, I would like to see that. And I would think that the way you have the option A and D, you know, I would think for North End, you know, the option would be all receptacles throughout the building would be one option, and then doing it just like Norton. I mean, to me, I look at Norton and I say, that's got everything. You gotta throw the elevator on, of course. Well, once you throw the elevator on, I mean, that's spot on, and then the only difference is that we have the warming/cooling center, and so you would wanna have that show what the incremental difference is for that, to say,
A
oh,
couple of packets here.
Yeah.
In the area, right.
Vin
Okay.
and Jeff.
And then, Chris, I had the memo from documenting our conversations. At this point in design, some things aren't as obvious as you know, being a consulting engineer. So we put down in plain English to address your concerns. At CD, they'll be obvious by the circuiting, as you know. But if you're looking for anything, say, John, we discussed, or something like that, I don't see it. The narrative we put in for operation, to be as clear as possible right now. You know, you talked about tamper resistance, code requirements about the school. That's a note right on the cover sheet. So as best we could, I'm just telling you it's all covered.
Beautiful. Very good. Any other concerns, questions? wanna make sure we button this one up. All right, I will put it on the next agenda just to clarify that we've got everything locked in. You don't need a vote on this, you've got agreement, I assume?
Well, we're not 100% yet, because we still need to put a couple options in. We still have to talk with Vin about the receptacles.
Yeah, all right.
To make sure we're voting on what
So we'll know what, yeah.
they
so-
want.
Seems a lot closer than we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement.
I would agree. We're at 95%.
Yep, all right, great.
Thank you.
Justin and Jeff, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Well, we just want to provide, so we have we've been having our heads down for a bit with our consultants to get as much information in the design development drawings and project manuals for the North End and Norton. We have the North End project DD package. Our deadline is tomorrow. So we'll be getting all of our consultants' information and collating that into a set that will be going out to the cost estimators. The one thing I just want to mention is this does not necessarily conclude the design development phase. We have a number of weeks where the cost estimators are going to be working on the project. We then will go through a reconciliation of both independent cost estimators, or ONG's cost estimator and PACS. We have a DDR, Design Development Review meeting with OGA, Office of Grants Administration, scheduled for March 6th. So that's for North End. Norton, I don't think we've
I'll
landed on
schedule it early next week.
Norton, North End deadline is tomorrow. Norton's deadline is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Just so everybody is aware.
What's the deadline for the reconciliation?
We're scheduling the reconciliation meeting for February 13th, and then I'm targeting, based on my last schedule, your acceptance of the DD estimate February 22nd, which I believe is a building committee meeting. And that's prior to the March 6th
Great.
meeting with the state.
Thank you.
So as Rich had mentioned, regarding, we held a working meeting with all the department heads earlier today, just because we have multiple applications in and getting back from the holidays, we wanted to make sure that everybody was communicating in an appropriate manner, or at least efficiently. So the dates that we are scheduling: North End, our first public hearing is January 22nd. The second hearing, we assume that this is going to be multiple dates, for planning and zoning is going to be February 12th. This is all in the cover sheet that we handed out. There is a WPCA sanitary meeting on January 25th. Banesh will be submitting the application for both projects, North End and Norton. We think it's a one meeting approval. For Norton, our inland wetlands first hearing is next week, January 16th. We have listed a second hearing here. The commission is going to make a determination next week whether or not there needs to be a public hearing as part of the IWWC. Currently, this is for Norton. When we get to the Norton site plan, I can kind of explain the thought process. But it has to do with some of the neighbors' concerns about the wetlands that are to the north of the site, as well as I think we're calling it the canal that is back at the back property line. There is enough public interest that the IWWC will likely want to schedule a public hearing. That's not going to impact our hearings for planning and zoning, the first one being February 12th. Important thing to note about P&Z is there's only one meeting in February. There's two meetings of the commission in February, but one is held for an internal working meeting. So the second meeting in February will not have any public applications. So the second hearing for Norton, or if the North End gets scheduled beyond a second meeting, will be March 11th. Some of the comments that we received, some of you may have heard, were related to the grade off of Marion Road down to our school. So where we have a significant grade differential between Marion Road and the finished floor elevation of our main floor level. It's on the order of 30 feet. So we are accommodating that slope in our approaches off of Marion Road. The original design gradients were approximately 13%. There's a requirement to be under 10% grade, and just so what that means for everybody, this room is approximately 30 feet long. So 10% grade would mean if I started at the corner of the floor here, by the end of the room, I'd be 3 feet up. So if you picture somewhere a little bit below the chair rail there, that is about the grade that you're talking about with the 10% grade. This design currently is under 10%, but where we are double checking some of the grades are where we have our parent pickup and drop off loop. As well as situating the soccer field to be level, we have a significant grade differential between the southwest corner, so north is this way, southwest corner of the soccer field and the intersection of Jarvis and Marion. So we're likely going to make that a less severe slope by incorporating a modest retaining wall in the north or southwest corner of the field.
Or make the field smaller.
Or make the field smaller. This is the current layout. One of the things that Sarah had mentioned in the public comment is our above ground detention area is though we have a nature path that kind of gets out towards our detention area, our playscapes are not as nestled within the above ground detention. So by and large, similar motif that you have been seeing, but just further detailed. The soccer or the play field is rotated a little bit to align with some of the natural topography that's coming down, as well as work with the grade differential between our bus pickup and drop-off road, our access to the service area, and the soccer field.
And the sanitary line.
And the sanitary line that we have a manhole structure approximately here and approximately here. So we have an existing sanitary line that comes through and goes through our site. So we're situating the play field outside of any of the structures. We don't want to have.
Chester, where's the geothermal?
It's in this play field here. So our head end equipment, I have a couple of diagrams that describe how we are going to be providing the utilities throughout the buildings. Those I'll get to in a moment.
Does it live over there or up over on the underneath the parking lot?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry. It was here, but I think because of this, the sanitary line.
We just felt there's no problem putting it up underneath parking because nobody's gonna see anything. It's better to keep it away from the sanitary line with the easements and all that stuff. So.
Hey,
Justin,
before you go away from this, what's the accessible route into the building for walkers?
Here.
Okay. Good.
In our just so everybody's aware, in our conversations with the town departments, we think it's likely that P&Z is going to request, or public safety is definitely requesting a sidewalk from this location up to the intersection of Jarvis and Marion. So that anybody that's here can get across to over there. I mean, currently we have we have access over to this existing sidewalk that's running to the south end of Jarvis.
So that might be work that's ineligible if it's outside the property line, just so you know.
Oh, it will be ineligible.
I didn't see where the property line was along Jarvis. If you have to go up, just read.
Yeah.
You might maybe we pull it. I don't know. We can talk about that.
Well, I mean, typically where we've done this, we provided it as an alternate, a bid alternate, so we understand what the cost that's associated with it. We can break it out. If it likely will be ineligible. So.
Justin, so the roadway on the top left one, that's the bus loop? Is that where the buses will be coming in?
Right. Buses will be coming in here, yeah.
And what's the grade on that one?
That is below 10%.
The average grade between here and there is 7% overall. I think there's areas where it touches like 9 as you get tighter up. So, yeah, I don't know if we have the grade, but
Yeah.
you want a level area here, obviously, and then these get a little tight, and then it smooths out as you go. So, but
if
it's none of it's over 10%.
We just talked about this, so I didn't have this prepared, but if you guys allow me, I'm gonna exit out of here and see if we have, so we have, I was gonna end on this show here, but,
Weird cover, sorry.
It's just me.
yeah, so this is
Money in other
BIM,
works.
BIM 360, where we have our consultants' models. This is all cloud-based.
It might be under shared.
Yeah.
C2.
So you can see as we get here, we go from 191 to 154 here. And the grade starts to level out as we get a little bit closer down to the parking areas. It gets a little steeper in here. This is your max grade, although it's still below 10%, and then it starts to flatten out where buses will be there to pull out.
So the reason I'm asking, I'm not a civil engineer, but I do know that even right down the road, if we were to go to Wallingford from here, you go out, you hit the light, and you go up the hill, and then you're gonna see at the top of the hill a sign that says 8% grade and shows the truck on the angle and whatnot. And so, you know, you get an 8, 9, 10%, you're seeing signs letting trucks know and whatnot. So I'm not so much worried about somebody driving there today and testing their brakes and all, but on a day where we might have a little bit of an early dismissal because of snow, is somebody gonna have to be standing out there for every bus throwing ice melt down? Because coming down spots on a 9% slope where there's just a little bit of snow down there, it's pretty slick. And, you know, we don't have the problem in most of the schools, because most of the ones, at least in town I'm familiar with, are fairly flat entrances. So, you know, I'm just concerned that somebody's, what do we do? I mean, in a perfect world, I would say, well, you gotta put ice melt on that, some sort of snow melting system in here, but that's a long road, and there goes our generator, so. But that's, you know, that's an extreme cost to snow melt that, but it is a concern, I think, you know, we have lots of snow some years, and it doesn't always happen, you know, the buses aren't only coming in after things have been perfectly cleared. So, to me, that's a concern, and I don't know how, you know, Jeff or Vin, what their concern might be for that, because that's real. What do we do on a day where there's, you know, where it's coming down snow, we've got early dismissal, you got buses coming in, and we got great people that work at the schools, but how do you keep that from getting slick? And once a school bus is on it being slick, what do you do? They drive
Going
four-wheel
up the hill
drive.
could be just as bad.
Well, yeah, getting stuck, but coming down, going up a hill, it's more of about stopping, and maybe you slide a little bit. Coming down, how do you stop? And you got a bus coming sideways at you. So that was my concern the whole time with this. And when I heard that, for whatever reason, I heard a 13, and then the red flag went way up, and I understand that got toned back, but I just don't know what this means for the end users.
But I guess my thoughts on that are, there's this standard that it has to be below 10, so somebody has thought about it, and we've been given the site with this like insane grade, so then what would we do outside of that cool like snow melting system? Like, would it just be switchbacks?
Yeah, you'd have to make the road longer in order to
Right.
reduce the slope.
You need to loop out and around and then come
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Well,
The other
but
thing you
that's-
can do is when
Yeah.
it snows, you just come in off of Jarvis.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I was wondering if
We
maybe
don't know if
we do
that's a fact,
investigate.
but
We
they're
had
trying to
always
balance
talked
it.
about this a little bit. Maybe there's, like, you just send folks there, that way.
Are they connected?
Not yet,
Oh, okay.
but that might be something we can consider based on.
Because that's fairly
So
flat
not
coming in from Jarvis, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some
Flat-ish.
slope
I
down.
mean, I don't disagree that that would be scary to come down in, my driveway's like a 20% grade.
And I'm not even mentioning, and, I mean, same concern for where the parents come in too,
Mhm.
because they're not all,
Oh, and have
It's
you been to a
snowplow
school
drivers.
pickup drive
Oh,
lately?
yeah.
It's
but the
mayhem.
school bus is, to me, is a much bigger concern. I mean, it's a big vehicle coming down, I'm not aware of any four-wheel drive or six-wheel drive school buses. I mean, some of them have the little thing with the chains that spins around underneath, but, that's not gonna help you get up and down this.
So we will, the 10% standard is there for a reason. I don't know if that reason is specifically tied to
Fire
these
trucks.
concerns. Yeah, yeah. So, we'll get that answer from Ganesh.
And,
But
Rich,
that might be worth checking into to see whether you can have an alternate route from Jarvis in case of bad weather.
who would bring that to, I do think, just my opinion, but I would think that the people who are gonna be maintaining this, Vin and crew and maybe Jeff, should, you
Yeah, I
know,
don't
this should be
know.
pointed out and say, hey,
Oh,
you
we
guys
talked about
concerned?
this in
Or-
the working group meetings, and that's the very reason why you see very flat area in front was because we had a lot of detailed conversations about where the drop off was and what that level needed to be, so I'm certain they're aware, but it's worth definitely having another
Well, I know there's
conversation
been
about it.
meetings with the bus people and with Rich Clavet. I don't know whether they were fully aware of the grade coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that 13% or 10% number? I knew all the time they were coming down a hill, you could see that
Right, right.
just by driving by. I didn't know that percentage until you had mentioned it. to me.
Yeah, and that's why I just kind of tried to orient everybody to the visual of this room. You know, if you can picture what that incline is, just.
Fortunately, though, this is one of those rare instances where the visual, I think your brain tones it down, you're like, I could walk that, no problem, but a truck on snow,
Sure.
If anyone's curious and wants to drive one, across the street, Balsam Court is 10% grade, right up off Marion Road.
going almost straight up the middle.
If you-
And
when
I
you do
did take a
little
ride
filter, you can
over
drive
there
it.
and tried that road the other day.
It's a new road and it's 10%. It's
And-
right at 10.
And although, you know, it does have a bit of a grade, you know, I go up and down Route 42 all the time, which I think is a much steeper grade. And I've been on there in snow and ice and
So just an option, if you want to see
Yeah.
what it,
it's my knuckle,
Yeah,
And a bus full of kids.
but,
yeah.
And it's not even so much that, I'm sure everybody's gonna do everything they can to be safe, but it's, how do we make that road not slick? And that's what I'm just thinking, a guy, you know, we're gonna have to have 4 people out there like an old-fashioned fire brigade, except it's gonna be a snow melt brigade, everybody's, I got this
Usually-
10 foot. you
Usually
got
bring
that.
a truck and throw sand down, but, you know, I worked in Beacon Falls for a while, and the high school there has a very steep, long driveway that goes in. I don't know what the grade is, but it seems like it would be more than that, 10%. And we had no trouble with snow, we did have issues when it got icy, and getting up the hill in particular in the ice.
Yeah, this is under 10, and it has a max, in the 9. So it's not a consistent grade, throughout.
If-
Just to further orient everybody, a 5%, which is half as steep as 10%, is accessible without is considered fully accessible without, the need for any railings,
Yeah, it's an
handrails.
accessible sidewalk.
So, again, I'm just, if, it could be a 25% grade, and if Vin and the crew said, that's no problem for us, we can handle it, then fine. I just wanna make sure that this doesn't cause them on those few snow days, oh my God, what do we got?
And I will,
If they're fine,
double
I'm fine.
comment to Vince about that tomorrow when I call him. Just make sure that they're fully aware.
I'm not trying to fabricate an issue if there isn't one.
Yep.
But it's,
Vince is never gonna miss a meeting again.
I know, you know.
He sounded, he has COVID right now.
Oh, dear.
Vince does?
Maybe I should, yes. I talked to him yesterday,
Oh,
and he
okay, I
was.
talked to
he
Jeff
was
Sullivan
sick.
a couple times, we didn't mention that Vince was out.
Oh, I was gonna say, hopefully you can talk to them first.
No, no.
There's been so much of it.
Well, I wasn't at our last meeting because I also was
I
ill,
noticed
so
that, yeah.
my apologies.
Okay,
After I met with everybody in our
Yeah,
office.
yeah,
today.
Kids at home, super.
share the wealth.
Well, that's the way things.
Typhoid Justin.
What's that?
Typhoid Justin.
Okay, so otherwise, everything is more or less as you've seen it in the past. We refined some of the service area and the loading, generator location, transformer location, some of the play area for the early childhood or pre-kindergarten, kind of aligning some of our exterior storage space within the building to where our age-specific play areas are.
Have you added more parking up above there?
This was, yes, so there, we are connecting via gate the two parking areas, and forgive me, what our total amount was. We should have something right here that always tells us exactly how much parking.
I'll do it for you.
So,
Well, that's all right, I was just curious, I didn't remember parking up there before.
yeah, we have over 200 parking spaces here. I know that.
Is that by requirement, or is that?
It's over.
It's over parked, but I believe these are, see how there's a slight difference here? These are pavers that are here, that are, we're using as overflow parking.
Okay, open house, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
36.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So, yes, exactly.
That's
The
what?
soc- The soccer.
I was gonna say, you're still 600 shy of
Yeah,
what we
when
need
you
on
have
the
the
art
big
show.
soccer tournament going on.
I will say, as a nod to that, we had been showing on the site plans, future pavilion, future storage. We were asked specifically by the planning department to remove those if they're not part of the current application. So those will no longer be shown on our drawings. We've had a little bit further definition of the exterior courtyard as well as our exterior walks here. But beyond that, I'll go to. So floor plan, you'll see it looks a little bit more, has some more definition to it in terms of things that are starting to show up on our plans. You'll start to see some gym equipment, some overall furniture. I believe this has been part of some of our last presentations, but we tightened up some of the ends here, still providing breakout spaces at the end of our learning communities. When we get into some of the building system diagrams, I can explain kind of what that is, or some of the rationale from there. Second floor more or less follows. As part of this breakout, we're providing the resource spaces at the kind of knuckle between 5th and 6th grade. So this really becomes the kind of special place with a lookout out to the natural landscape.
On the first floor, did the art room move? It looks like it's within the space of the media center now.
Art is, on the first
No,
floor.
on the first floor.
Yeah, we have visual arts here, the media center is up here.
Okay, is that where it was, or is that a move?
We,
I think it's been there for a while.
it's been there for a while.
Has it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where'd the elevator go?
Am I on it? So the elevator here, the elevator is right there.
So we did away with staying in the same room for a child in a wheelchair?
So we've had a lot of discussions about this in the office. about the accessible route, as well as what the travel within the media center would be if the idea of the upper level of the media center is to provide the upper grade levels, this area.
Yeah, the discussion with so we have an in-house building official, was that you need to provide the accessible route to the entire building, not just to the space, so.
Yeah, that's, the code is a floor, not a ceiling.
Yeah, so that's why we pulled it out, but it's like right adjacent to, and then.
It's not good enough.
Yeah.
Put it back. That's a deal breaker.
How do you provide an accessible route to the rest of the building then, and just not to people?
The same
in
way
the
we
media
had
center?
it before, two-door elevator.
Yeah, and we'll look at it.
Norton, sorry. Any other questions, comments on the site plan, floor plan? I do have some diagrams that discuss building systems a little bit later.
No, I'll come back to the elevator for just 1 second. I respect Dennis tremendously, and I know he's got very strong feelings on this. Having been a principal and having dealt with a number of special needs kids and having a daughter who was in a wheelchair, I personally don't have any serious concern with the elevator where it is.
Do we need to discuss this further?
It sounds that way. If he's saying that's a deal breaker, that's important to me. I fully understand, and as I said, I had a daughter who was in a wheelchair, and was very, very sensitive to her being included and not being isolated in any way. And in fact, one of my ex-students who has CP, who just graduated from Fairfield, just wrote a book about all of the things that we did in our school to make her feel totally included in the program. And when my daughter went to Dodd, they didn't have an elevator at all. And I remember my daughter saying she couldn't sign up for certain classes. We went to open house, and the nurse informed us she hadn't been going to social studies class at all because it was upstairs and she couldn't get up the stairs. So we've dealt with all of that stuff, and I am very, very sensitive to making sure that any handicapped student is fully accessible. I just don't think the issue of being able to move from the main floor in the media center to the upper floor in the media center is that big a difference than going across the hall, getting an elevator going up.
I get it, but it's about equity,
Yeah.
not about meeting code.
No, I'm not talking code at all.
Right.
I don't know code.
If-
I know.
If we have a two-story media center and the class is moving from the first floor to the second.
But they're not.
Well, then you can get rid of the stairs then. Within the media center.
I suppose you can. What you don't see in this view is that there's the tiered seating, so the stair is really there as a way to communicate between the both levels, more or less for the faculty and staff that are staffing it, because likely you may or may not have one or two people there. The comment on the equity from a design perspective and from a building code perspective, if this is the main entry, just hear me out on this. I completely understand your feelings about the media center, but is that if majority or half the students that are going, well, all the students that are going to the second floor, typically when they come in their day, are going to be coming up through this main entry and up this stair. And the reason why we placed it and pulled it further back and tried to give it equal distance to the media center is that so that those students that aren't specifically going, they're beginning their day and going to the second floor and the remainder of the space on the back half of the building, that they arrive in the general same location. And that's typically what we try to do with stairs and elevators of a public nature, is to make them, place them so that they arrive in a similar fashion, so they're treated equally.
Can you go back to the second floor?
That's why we did that.
Yeah, so the elevator and the top of the stairs are
So-
sharing that landing.
So, but, you know, and it's not just, you know, it's temporarily disabled or fully disabled students, faculty or staff, if they have friends or peers, yeah, they would essentially, they're not going to a different location to you know, to start their day. If they enter the building together,
They're
they
staying
can
together.
arrive at the second floor together, is I guess the intent of why we placed it where we did. That, in addition to providing accessible routes to things like intervention, OT, PT, special ed, psych, counsel, those kinds of things as well. Those shared spaces are shared for both floor levels, right? So that's the thought process behind why we did it, and we tried to keep it close to where, like, believe me, we had many debates and some pretty fierce conversations about it, and what's code, what's equity, and we felt like that was the best location to try to serve all different aspects of the use of the building. So it's not like we just moved it because it was a technical reason. We gave it a lot of thought.
Could I ask, in the working group for this school, did, and we might not have this information, but did any of the folks participating in that group identify as someone who is disabled or who would use accessibility services?
In our in-person meetings, no. I couldn't tell you on our virtual
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah, it's not something that you'd go around the room and be like, okay, so who's, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But I do feel like those are the people who I want to hear from,
Sure. Yeah.
you know? Because I don't, my mother uses a wheelchair. I've become very familiar with how ostracizing it can be. This, to me, would actually be an improvement over 95% of what we experience when my mom's in a wheelchair. But I do agree, if there's a pedagogical, and it doesn't sound like that's the purpose of the 2 floors, it's not pedagogical, it's not teaching going from one floor to the other. If that were the case, I think.
But that might not be the case now, but we don't know
That's a good
5 years from now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And we're not designing for the kids today, we're designing for
50
10,
years of
20,
kids.
50 years down the line. It worked before with a 2-door elevator. Why doesn't it work now?
We just kind of walked through it. I mean, if you go back to the first floor, you would land, basically you could pull it back into the building, but you would land in a entirely different spot, right? So you could pull it here and rearrange this.
Yeah, I don't
if
think
need
the
be.
art room was there before.
Right, I mean, this is a conundrum of Technos doing, not the committee.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say that. What do you mean, we created our own problem?
Well, you move the art room.
So is that the decision? We want to put this back in the middle of the building? Because we'll have to readjust it.
If you
That's what
don't,
the-
you're -1 vote.
I guess I was asking the group as a whole what their feelings are. And what
Well,
you
I
think
would
is about it.
recommend that somebody make a motion if that's a direction that,
Can I ask a question?
yeah?
Fortunately, nature had me away from the issue. Do you mind restating your concerns since I was out of the room?
There's a stair that connects the first floor in the media room to the second floor within the media room. kids are gonna be using that stair to go up and down. If a class moves up and down within the media room, a child in that class that has a disability will have to go out of the media room, go to the elevator, and come back in the media room on the second floor. That's not equity.
So,
It meets code because he can get from the first floor to the second floor, but they're not sharing the same experience.
Well, what about students not going to the media center from the first floor to the second? If you move the elevator, they're gonna be deposited in the media center?
No, the elevator that was designed before served dual purpose. From the public space, you can go up to the second floor, and from the media center, you can go up to the second floor of the media center. So a two-door elevator, front and back.
In one on each side,
Right.
one door on the hallway, the other one on the media center?
stupid question, are classes, media center, there are classes held in the media center?
Yeah, usually there are assigned classes, so that, you know, your third grade class every Wednesday goes to the media center and there's instruction given by the media specialist. Kids individually also go to the media center to take out books, to work in maker spaces, things like that. So, you know, a good media center, there's movement in and out all the time.
Question for you. If programmatically, just hypothetically, if programmatically, there was a policy whereas there's never one person in the elevator, there's always a minimum of 3 students or 4 students. So if somebody had to use the elevator, who would be the lucky 4 students that goes with them as a treat to ride the elevator up? Would that,
Can't do that.
well, sure you can. Why can't you?
Yeah, we do
Because
that
it
sort
could
of-
be a teacher.
What?
It could be a teacher, it doesn't have to be a kid.
Okay, so change what I said to 3 human beings to a treat. I mean, if you wanna talk equity, hanging with friends is probably better than having an adult.
Well, we did
But I'm
just
saying.
that, you know, I mentioned the girl who had CP, you know, if you read the book that she just wrote, she talked all the time about ways that other kids were incorporated into various activities that she did, and how the staff was really sensitive in doing that. You know, we had an inclusion program where those kids were always integrated in. But our elevator was off, you know, the cafeteria. If you were coming from the 4th grade class, you had to go halfway around the building to get to the elevator.
And that's what I'm wondering, is if you can programmatically have a compromise of something that is like equity, or creates. an
But I mean,
equity.
if you look,
But
if
point is,
you're a
why-
4th grader now, or a 6th grader, and you're going to the cafeteria, you're gonna still have to come, you know, halfway across the building, get in an elevator, go down, and go over. If you're going to the gym, you know, anyone who's upstairs, a 6th grade kid upstairs, is gonna have to come across the building. It's not just the media center.
No, but the
So-
issue is not where the elevator is. The issue is that the media center is a 2-story space. Within the space,
Mhm.
if the students move within the space, it needs to be all of the students being able to move within the space. If the students move within the school, they move within the school. Some people use the stairs, some people use the elevator.
What happens if there's a gathering out here, like we've created a space, you know, where kids are hanging out upstairs and downstairs? Like, it's not just this space that's a
No,
two-story
but
space, there's
for
one
instance-
here, there's one here.
If you move, yeah, but the cafeteria is not a 2-story space.
There's a means to get up to the second floor through it, sure.
But there's no eating spaces upstairs.
What he's saying is if you're in media center class, I mean, if you're in cafeteria, you're eating lunch, then you're not gonna then say, hey, let's go upstairs and finish eating lunch to the other
Right.
upstairs thing,
So if, go back to the second floor if you would. So right now you have a big wide atrium to the right of the media center. If you move the stair up or move the stair to the other side, you could sneak an elevator in there. and that will land you in the media center downstairs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we had. Something
Original.
similar. The challenge or the concern and the debate that we had was then it's more geared towards and further away from everything else. And it's more geared towards just the media. That was our concern. Was like if you think about the practicality of the use, and I understand programs can change, but in a school of this nature with these grade levels, you're likely going to have the upper grade levels and the materials associated with that on this floor level, with their teaching space on this floor level. That's what we've set up here, is the materials for grades, 3 through 6, ideally would be here with their teaching space there, and then same thing on the lower floor. So
Yeah.
so the idea is that there's not going to be teaching space down here and all materials up here, and they're going back and forth. The stair is really a means or a vehicle for the supervision. Really,
Realistically, and as I said, I don't have a big problem with the elevator is, but, if you've got an author illustrator coming in,
Yep.
and I'm a sixth grade teacher, I'm gonna bring my kids up to the top, and we're gonna go down that big stairway. Sure. The kids are gonna sit on that stair,
Yep.
so that the author illustrator can do a presentation.
Or they would bring them down this stair and bring them into the library that way.
It's possible. I mean,
Right.
they can go either direction. I can go either way. My only point is, I think that, you go up and down an elevator for a variety of things. The media center would only be one of those, and that I want that elevator to be as accessible as possible, and as central as possible. It's not even all that central at the moment, but, I just,
Yeah, but walking down that hallway would add quite a bit.
yeah,
People wanting to use the elevator.
yeah, it's just not the, of all the issues that I dealt with over the years of accessibility, this one isn't just one that I feel it strongly about.
But
I respect the fact that.
No, I
you
get
do.
that, but it's one that was brought up before, and that was changed without asking.
Well, there's a lot of things that evolved in this plan through the various
Yeah.
different working group sessions that we've done here and we've shared. That if we had to ask permission to refine all the plans, then these plans have evolved from schematic design.
Right.
And they've evolved for reasons mostly through the working group sessions to understand how the building wants to work. And that's how we've modified the building to accommodate those comments. These weren't, and please, hopefully the committee understands, we didn't just say, all right, we're moving this here because we want to. I would say all of the plan modifications and adjacencies were born out of those conversations. So it wasn't just like we decided okay, we wanted to move it because we wanted to. It was born out of those conversations. That's how we work, Dennis. So I understand, and you voiced your opinion and agreed, and we discussed it in the office, and I personally think that it belongs more centrally located, just because of when you're thinking about the practicality and use of it, it's probably going to be used more throughout the building. So we tried to balance it, and we thought that was a good compromise. If it's not, and the building committee wants us to put it right in the media, then we'll do it.
So Dennis, can you go back to the other floor? So if you were to take, Dennis, are you saying that if this were just to be flipped 180, so you had access here, that would solve the problem?
Well, that makes all kinds of other issues.
No, I think he's saying take it and put it right here.
No, it can be right across the hallway from there. The art room would have to be tweaked.
What do you mean right across the hallway?
It can be right across the hallway from where it is now.
Oh, I see, in the art room.
Right. In the space occupied by the art room.
Right, so
Yeah, but-
flip it 180 and then put the elevator in media center proper, or
Yeah,
with a double-sided door.
it's a simple fix.
Well, where's your art room then?
Well, it would have to be tweaked to accommodate the art room.
Okay, that's more than a tweak though, that's.
We'll rotate the whole thing 180.
Shift it to the left.
Now you're changing the whole exterior window views and.
No, I get the fact that it's not easy. But it was an early ask that I won't say it was ignored, but it was important.
Well, we've talked about the issue. I would recommend if we want to direct the architects that you make a motion and see what the committee feels. Because I don't think that they're getting a clear sense of what the committee wants.
Well, I think, I understand what you're saying, Rich, but I think what we're, I could be wrong. But I'm not seeing why things can't just be rotated 180. There's something to do with what, the windows, or the views, or the exterior. It seemed like if it was rotated 180 and then the elevator moves across the hall, takes up a space.
Well, I don't think we should be sitting here redesigning the building. I
But
think
we could be
if
asking the architects for concepts to see if it makes sense feasibly or not before we vote on something. I mean, we shouldn't vote on something that we don't even know if it's feasible. I mean, that's what we've got the design professionals for, and I'm just trying to find out, is this a non-starter because of 30 other issues, or is it just tricky, or is it gonna affect just something aesthetic? I mean, what, is it doable or not?
I'm trying to track what you mean by 180, just in order to answer that, like.
I don't even know if it's correct, but.
Like making a long hallway of media room?
No. Take this, all right? This is, and you go whoop. So essentially like art is up here and then you have the elevator, so your top and bottom matches. Again, I'm not redesigning it, I'm just conceptually, we need media to be here on both floors in order for the elevator to be there, right?
Right. He'd
So,
stayed on the hallway and
Somehow or other. I mean, flipping is just my loose term for.
But, okay, so, but we're also now starting to like pull on the string, right? Because we have the working groups who came in and talked about the media room, the art room, the locations and the flow, right? And those are conversations that we weren't necessarily part of. So, and I feel like some of this moving around of the art and the media was directly related to like sight lines and light, which if we start moving these around, what do we give up for that? And I just don't know, especially since in my mind, the end clients are the people who are gonna be living in this school. And the only people that we can really talk to about it are these people right now. I know we have to plan for 50 years, but we have this group of experts of the people in the building right now. So, in my mind, if the people that were in the room, the working group, saw this and said, yes, like this works for us, this works for our students, then I think it's great.
So I agree with what you're saying, is that there might be all of these other facets, which is, they're the ones who know about all the facets, or at least a big chunk of them. And so that's why I'm throwing it out there to say, if they can elaborate on what some of those challenges may or may not be.
The only, just real quick, the first response to flipping the art would mean that you were adding basically square footage, because then art would either have to be a 2.5 story space or it would have to have a floor to it, right? So media basically is a 2-story space that opens up to this, right? So it opens up as you're looking into it. So if you flip the downstairs, all I'm saying is that likely would be floor. So.
It was just a loose conceptual thought, that's
No,
all.
I understood, I'm just trying to react to what you said.
And my only other thought on this would be is that, I have my own personal thoughts, but I really don't know what's involved with running a school and all the aspects of that and the equity that needs to or doesn't need to be there. Whereas I would think Jeff, who isn't here, is a little more equipped to answer that. I would want to hear his input on that, because this may be a gigantic issue in his eyes. Or he may have other answers to say, well, you know what, here's why I don't think it is. And I think his input would be
But
important.
administration is part of the working groups, right?
And
Yeah.
Jeff and Vin have been at almost every single meeting. In fact, Vin generally chairs them.
Yeah. That's-
I don't recall, and I've sat in on most of them, I don't recall the elevator ever being a topic of conversation or any of them.
Well, that's, yeah.
That's a
Good
little
point,
more
too.
reason to bring it to their attention.
It was a topic here.
It was a
It
topic
was.
here. You're absolutely right. You made it clear, your opinion on that quite some time ago. I agree with you. But I would move that we table this to the next meeting, and we can talk to Dr. Solon and staff in between and get their opinion for the next meeting. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good approach.
Yep.
Discussion on that?
No discussion.
No discussion on tabling. All those in favor? Okay.
Is it just this school?
Well, I don't know, we haven't looked at Norton's yet.
No.
I don't,
No.
The same assumptions were made for Norton.
You table my question, but I just asked.
So a couple things that we want to indicate for revisions to the Norton plan. Placement of the footprint of the building, placement of bus pickup and drop-off, parent pickup and drop-off, visitors all remain the same, as well as access out to Sharon Drive. The one thing that I want to bring up through our working group sessions is, if you recall, we've had a slow migration or as you will see, we've had a slow migration of the playscapes to rotate around to the north side of the
it's
building.
growing, it's like an amoeba.
Well, at one point, we had everything over here that it was kind of aligned with the ends of these learning communities. Through our conversations with the working group and our location of the cafeteria, there's a strong preference and need for the playscapes to be more directly adjacent to the cafeteria. So we think we have a review meeting with Jody, the principal at Norton, on Monday. She had previously indicated that we had shown the playscapes, the playscape apparatus out here, but not any blacktop play areas. She had indicated a strong preference to make sure that we continue to have those, or to have that within the same proximity as the other playscapes. So we think that this satisfies that concern. And the one thing that I will note is that we do have some hardscape out here that kind of makes a plaza off of a number of different exits to the building. So cafeteria exit here, we have our Main Street access that goes all the way from the front of the building out to the back here, and we also have an egress stair that comes out right here. So this area kind of ties together these three entrances. And
Is
kind
that,
of,
that gray area up at the top, that's the blacktop?
yeah, it's rendering a little wonky here, but it's a basketball court.
So this was kind of born out of, remember the think tank follow-up?
Yeah.
Where there was, the principal asked and then a few of the
Yeah, they were really
members.
concerned about having to bring the kids all the way to the
So I
building,
think it
into the,
works, and they asked about separating out some of the play areas a little bit more,
Yeah.
so
but
that.
having a blacktop area is essential. You know.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
snowy winter, the kids really can't get out on the fields at all.
Yeah.
Justin, bottom right, you have a little path of a circle. And then around the 5 o'clock mark, there's a gray circle there. What is that with the little dots in it?
It's just an informal learning, outdoor learning area. So think of a clearing, maybe Keystone, that has tree stump seats or something like that out there.
Cool.
You know, the reality is that we're gonna try and maintain as, you know, as much of a natural wooded area outside of the kind of green play area. Any questions on the site?
Do we need any sort of, or is there any thought that some sort of physical barriers, like for cars and boulder features I see in some renderings and stuff, or the trees provide that? No, I'm thinking on the right, on the access drive there.
You know, one of the things, before you answer, one of the things that I know we had talked on very early, and Jeff D'Onofrio had mentioned, is at some point doing an executive session on security. And I don't know if that's where you were headed with that question or not, but it might be that it would be worth it for us to do that, to talk about at the two buildings, all the security that's been built in. But we don't want to do that in public session.
Yeah, no, actually, I was just thinking for a car coming around and not as a blowout and the tire veers off or.
No, you're right.
You're right.
You're right, Chris.
That, they may be on the detailed plans and not on the rendering, but we'll definitely check.
Ron, can you make sure the minutes show that both of them twice say Chris was right?
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet.
I've never written
They
that.
said it
Yeah, I've never
twice.
written, I've never written.
Twice.
Been a
I
year.
feel like
You're
it
right,
happens
because you're
multiple
Chris.
times
Been
per
a year
meeting.
now.
They said, yeah, exactly. Like that in the
2024.
minutes, at the front end of the
Show.
minutes. We'll not vote for the minutes unless.
New Year's resolution.
Rough letters.
Oh dear.
Personally, I think the plan for Norton has really come a long way.
Beautiful.
It's changed as you've gone along, but I like the new plan a whole lot better than where we started.
Great.
Looks pretty cool.
So, you'll see, again, in a similar fashion, you'll see that, you know, we have some kitchen equipment in here. I have a slide showing those in a little bit more of a technical capacity a little bit later. Grade level learning communities, more or less, are in the same locations that they've been at. We did tighten up some of these areas as part of the exterior revisions that we were going through a couple months ago. But again, still holding on to the idea that the end of these, or the intersection of these learning communities, are opportunities for breakout. Main Street corridor, where we have a double height space. Dennis, you know, the same comments are going to apply to the elevator at this media center. You'll see that the utility rooms are being populated with mechanical equipment, etc. So this, even though the floor plans still look in a graphic way, like they're illustrative, you can see that there's been considerable work to populate some of the equipment from our consultants, etc.
Are all the mechanical and electrical all in that one location?
Yes. Well,
The utility service entrance,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
the service entrance, you'll see in some of these areas, we're showing some electrical closets, IDF closets within the grade level communities.
That's what I was wondering. Otherwise, I was wondering if there was gonna be additional ceiling space, or if we we're gonna be concerned about things running through, if it all comes from just one spot. We'll have some
He's got some
intermediates.
diagrams to
Yeah.
show me major infrastructure.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Except the elevator here is an easy fix. Just slide it down.
Yeah, this doesn't look like what we talked about the other day. The elevator could live right down at the bottom and have that
Right.
pass through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the sketch we had, so.
To put it down there.
Bottom left.
Yeah,
corner.
because it's kind of also tied to, you know, the mechanicals, there's an infrastructure routing through, so we're trying to find spots. And if the elevator, if some of the space lived down here, because we gotta come across underneath too to get to this space with mechanicals, so some of those moves help with things that you don't see above the ceiling too, is, I guess, my point. So it likely can move down on this one.
But that's when you can
And
look at.
easier, yeah, absolutely.
So, just because this is coming up, I'm gonna start, maybe because we were just on Norton, I'll go to this diagram. So in our weekly consultant coordination meetings with, John's still here, right?
Yes. Dismissed.
Yeah.
He left.
You know, where we've created some areas where we're calling them no-fly zones, where we're trying to do something special with either bringing in, exposing some of the structure, having more of a clean look at the end of these breakout areas, especially on the upper levels. Obviously within our Main Street corridors. So we've spent considerable time trying to plan where our piping is from our utility room and looking at the routing. So this is hot water, chilled water to the chill beams. So by and large, from the utility room coming over and making sure that we're able to run more or less along the perimeter of the learning communities so that we can provide that piping to the chill beam systems. So we have where we need to cross some of our areas. Obviously, we're able to accommodate that in the learning communities without interrupting our no-fly zones. But where we need to cross some of these special areas or these double height areas, we're selecting locations that we know we will have a ceiling condition in there and provide the avenue.
No piping in the caf or the gym?
Oh, 1 second. Because on the upper level, what you're seeing in green are the approximate location of our RTUs, our rooftop units. So where we have for the cafeteria, that is serviced by a rooftop unit. So that's ductwork that's occurring in the space of the cafeteria. Similar to the gymnasium, we have the rooftop unit here. So where we're placing them for the learning communities, 2 rooftop units per wing, 1 for the main level, 1 for the upper level. We're placing them over areas that are not, will not interfere with the classroom. So over our toilet core and then over our corridor.
So those are the DOAS, they're
Yep.
not necessarily rooftop, because that's the air
Yep.
and the piping's providing the heating and cooling.
Just, it's a roof-mounted dedicated outside air system. So, rather than, I pay by the character in PowerPoint, so we just labeled it rooftop unit.
Justin, with
Yes.
these, you know, these are brand new buildings, we're all well insulated, do we need, does the chill beam provide all the heating that's necessary, or is there still some supplemental, like radiant panels or something you need near the windows?
We do not have radiant panels
It's just
near
a-
the windows.
Just a chill beam system is all we have,
Yes.
so that's all you
Yep.
need? Thank you.
So I'll just back up a little bit because the same process applies for the north end. We are providing some natural light within the corridor. So the goal is to provide our piping, the corridor of our pre-kindergarten area, the location of our Smart Start and the early education. So our no-fly zones are within this corridor, and then in the main level and the upper level in our breakout areas, and a similar concept, at least for the learning communities, for the outside air. And then we have rooftop units located at the cafeteria, gymnasium, and the media center. Actually, this is to service the area of the pre-kindergarten.
So no fly means there's absolutely nothing overhead? There's no utilities above?
Well, it's where we're limiting the amount of piping, wiring. The goal is to not have anything within that space.
How do you accommodate those spaces?
From the first floor.
So I also just wanted to show this because this is going to be a part of our upcoming coordination meetings with the district. We have very detailed food service equipment plans Norton is on the left, North End is on the right. Very similar. Both have a two-line serving, 2Q serving area. So there are 2 areas that you can enter and get food. So every lunch wave will be able to queue up 2 lines of students to come in and get their food. So serving line, transaction, the actual servery, and then cooking and prep here, storage here. Same concept is basically mirrored on the north end.
Separate walk-in
Yes.
refrigerators and freezers?
Walk-in cooler, walk-in.
Because I know they
walk-in
didn't want
freezer.
one that where you had to go through the
Right.
refrigerator to get to the freezer.
So in both locations, in both locations, the goal is where you're coming in to the kitchen, bringing your deliveries. You don't necessarily need to go through the prep area. So this circulation line, we have our cooler, freezer, dry storage here. Same thing over here where we enter in here. So both kitchens also have a kitchen office, also have an area for staff lockers, as well as a dedicated toilet within the.
Kitchen staff is approved to the plan?
Well, that's the meeting that we have to have.
Oh, okay.
So this was generated based on our initial meetings with the kitchen staff.
Hating to sound like a broken record, but can you make sure they're okay with freezers and dry storage not being accessible?
Not being accessible, meaning the accessible route or?
Right now, if you're in dry goods storage, you can't get out.
Well, this is, okay, I'm gonna delete that, that movable shelf.
Yeah, if they put it in afterwards,
Yeah.
it's not an issue.
Well, I think some of those, like, it's definitely in here, these are all mobile, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so you, yeah, I know what you're saying, there's not enough floor.
But you
There's-
want enough width there to get a wheelchair.
Yeah,
to
so if you
move
pull all
around
those
spaces.
out, you'll have
Yeah.
you should have your
Yep.
accessible room, yeah, definitely.
But the shelves definitely
Yeah, anything fixed, yeah.
makes that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I started to show when we went into the civil drawings, I just wanted to share with you how this is a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here. This is how we're working with our consultants. This is called BIM 360, which is a cloud-based way that we can share files and documents with our consultant team. And one of the kind of cool things, and we're going to check to see about getting whether or not we can have guest access, etc. One of the nice things is we're having our consultants upload their Revit models or building information models daily, so that we can constantly all work for the most recent, files. And what's really kind of neat is that it kind of offers you a browser that you can start to play around in. So I'm going to just do this. It takes a little while to generate, but you can start to see how we can kind of go down into this is the current state of our Revit model, or our building information model. So you'll be able to see, some of the classrooms that we have here, some of the cubbies that
Which
we're
school are
building
we
in.
looking at?
Oh, this is North End.
Oh, okay.
So if I zoom all the way out, you'll have to forgive me because we don't have these dining room tables out in the parking lot. So there's some equipment that this is a work product, right? This is a working document, but
Those were large ants or something.
yeah. So it's allowing us to work pretty well with Kohler Ronan, Michael Horton, Crabtree McGrath, in order to, if we are running into any coordination issues, and as I had mentioned, where's this guy? This can we can start to look at the second floor from here if we wanted to go up. You can see the other areas. So we're going to check to see whether or not we can provide access to the committee, so that you can have access. I mean, at minimum, ONG needs to be able to do this. Laurel, I don't know if you've been able to tool around in these things yet, but there's, you know, there's,
Can you put the roof on and take me for a walk around the building? Is that possible?
well,
Do you have the goggles?
well,
That's a real thing.
so the one thing that I wanna stress is that, it's a working model, so like some of these, we need to make sure that we get the right height, and obviously we have some rooftop coordination, that we need to make sure that we're getting to here. I'd feel more comfortable being able to go through this and check and then kind of curate some things for you. Because you're kind of seeing how the sausage is being made here. Because you can also see that, you know, we have, I don't exactly know what this guy is here.
I like it though, nice little catwalk between the,
Yeah, I don't quite know
kids would love that.
whose
Oh, kids will have a
responsibility.
ball going across there.
That's a
yeah.
great feature. Do we have that, is that in the budget?
You
I hate to
misbehave,
be
walk
completely off topic, but
walk
so
the
you work
plank.
locally and then upload a version, or can people commit changes through the browser?
I believe we're working,
It's all on the cloud. So all the models are on the cloud,
Yeah.
and so if
So let me
we
just go
move
to-
a wall.
Everybody
and-
sees it.
Yeah, they need to change the light switch. Now it is really all on the cloud. You know, before they would. So yeah, it's. I mean, we each have to publish it just to make sure that it gives updates. But yeah, it's pretty wild.
And it's hosted through Autodesk.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's bananas.
And if you have to work remotely at home,
Right.
it's like.
Oh, this
your
can be
office.
anywhere. Yeah.
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 Well, just the response rates of the models is incredible compared to like a few years ago even. It's incredible.
Yeah, and this was interesting. You can go to like a stair section, click on this section, and it'll bring you to it in the building, and then you can like see where that stair is in 3D. So it's pretty wild.
I wasn't totally kidding before. Do you guys do the thing with the glasses where you put on the virtual
Yeah,
goggles and do a
so-
walkthrough?
So I haven't used it with this program, but like, have you heard of Enscape? Enscape, you can download 3D. Like basically, you can do walkthroughs, but it gets people like a little bit wonky. So you can do like 3D views, so you can stand in the space and look all around.
Could you just export like a .obj file?
the challenge is that when
really
we,
big one?
yeah,
Yeah.
the challenge is that, and we did this on a very recent project, you end up exporting a gigabyte file. And it ends up being, it overloads,
Can't put that on a Quest.
So one of the things that's interesting to us is how, like, I'm on Cheshire Town Hall's Wi-Fi
Yeah.
right now, and this is regenerating. I mean, you see there's a little bit of a lag here,
It's
but
incredible.
it's regenerating pretty
I'm
pretty
blown
darn
away by
fast.
this.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
fantastic.
So,
What are the outside extensions around the windows? Is those wood things again that were showing up at North End? Are they here at North End?
This is Norton.
this
this
is
is
Norton. I
Norton.
just switched to Norton. Yeah.
Okay, I thought those wood were going away.
No, I believe that was part of
I think
our
the wood is,
Yeah.
the pop outs or not.
The bump outs were not, no. So, anyway, I just wanted
The
to,
look around the windows is being changed to something else.
Yeah,
Some
different
wood,
material.
Okay,
Different
So
material.
it's rendering beige. I don't think that means
okay,
wood. I
and
think
for some reason I thought we were at North End when I saw it, so.
Yeah, we were, like a second
we
ago,
were, and
switched
then I
over.
just switched over, just so everybody
Okay.
could.
Because it loads so quickly.
Right.
Just switch back and forth.
So,
Well, right now the town server is melting.
That's true. That's true. That's why we need the backup power.
Tech
just to-
guys are getting a call, what's going on, everything's frozen
so
all
you can
over
do it
town."
from the top, you can also do it from the, let's see, from the side, you know, you can go through the building.
So that's the gym, yeah, and the main hall.
So you just cut $50 million out of this.
Yeah.
Right. You can move this.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So I've had a lot of fun playing with this afternoon. So I'm gonna try and find some opportunities that we can kind of share this stuff with the committee. But I just wanted to.
So
bring
you
it up
just
here.
got into it, but yeah, I would love to be able to walk through the building and get a sense of what it's like.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that would
we've been
help
using
at
it,
some point.
we've been using it for completely boring, things like
Design.
coordination between, you know, our structure and piping and everything. But I
I wanna
think,
walk the corridors, I
Yeah.
wanna walk up the steps.
yeah, I mean,
wanna-
you can,
that
there's a
sort of-
first person, component to this,
This probably isn't the program to do.
yeah.
And I will say this too, Rich, this is all really cool and all, until it's your work, and somebody's scrolling through looking at, cause I don't like when people are looking at my stuff.
Not, yeah.
There's
during
always something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
mid-
panel in the basketball hoop, what's that doing there?
But I mean, you know, I did a school in 1997, of course, everything was all hand-drawn, and, you know, you made one little change, and then they had to go back and, you know, change 20 other drawings, and
So the other kind of neat thing about this particular way that we're working is that we're constantly sharing documents. So we have shared drawings. So we require our consultants to upload the most recent drawings once a week, so that we're constantly having the most recent iteration of them. So if we can figure out a way to give you guys the access without futzing around with the actual files, we will.
you know, when it's changing
Yeah.
walls and moving things.
Yeah.
Hey, look at those 5 elevators in the building.
I mean, we definitely need a permission group that's pretty tight, yeah.
Okay,
You don't have to worry about me. All I wanna do is work on another project.
all right, and
I
that's.
don't wanna be changing anything.
Yeah. I don't trust myself not to accidentally click on something.
Well, I tried that out. And, you know,
Yeah, that
what
happens.
did I do? How do I get back?
Yeah.
So I think we covered, in the discussion, we covered everything that was part of the update. Went over the regulatory schedule, design development deliverable schedule. The lot combination is ongoing by Banesh. We talked about the emergency generator.
Justin, on the generator, just one little side note, at least when we're showing these site plans, any chance are they showing up on them? Is the generator on it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You wanna see where they are?
Yeah, they were there.
No, I'll wait till next meeting.
Looking for
Where is
something like a school bus size?
There.
Somehow it looks tiny.
Well, it's a big school.
This one's parking space size, right there. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, cool, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry to be.
You guys all set?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so for next meeting, I do have some issues then. We want to come back talking about just finalizing generator and backup electric systems. I will send a note out to Vince and Dr. Solon regarding the electrical receptacles, regarding the 10% driveway grade and the elevator, to get feedback from them. And I raised the question, I'd like to get a response from you. Do you want to have a meeting specifically, or break off to a meeting specifically to talk about security?
Is now the right time?
Hmm?
Yes.
I don't know, is this the right time?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go into executive session, just to talk about what security issues are built into the design.
Do we have a security consultant for that, or is that just, you guys that do that?
Well,
or-
so, like access control, cameras, all of that is part of Kohler Ronan's. They have a staff specifically for that. On our side, as far as the door hardware, the filming, some of the specifications related to like secure entrances, those are all things that we would do in-house. So we have a pretty robust, I guess, presentation that we can summarize all of what's in the building right now.
There's nobody else that needs to be here, is what I'm saying.
No.
So I'll leave that in your hands,
Yeah.
however you want to do that.
Okay. Do you want that at the next meeting, or does it matter?
I was going to do it the next meeting
Okay,
unless,
that's
you
fine.
know, that's
Alright.
pushing things, so.
How long of a meeting is it?
So we'll run through our regular agenda and then go into executive session specifically.
How loud
for
do you
that
have,
purpose.
Chris?
Bring a sandwich.
You don't? I'll go toe to toe with you, I have no problem with that. I've pulled all-nighters, let's do it.
Well, you guys had a month off, right? So it's
No,
time
but
time to get moving
seriously, I
again.
mean, what is that a 2-hour discussion, or is that a
No,
half-hour
no,
thing?
half hour, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, we can summarize
I
that.
just wanna make sure it's not worth of another meeting.
And I did look, by the way, because it was questioned, you know, when our 1-year anniversary was, and we did meet the first time in December, a year ago. So we are at a year and a month
We
now.
didn't have cake.
No, we didn't have,
Next
we
time.
missed it. I thought that it was January.
We may have had cake, because we had cake a few meetings, didn't we?
I will be glad to bring cake if, for our 1-year, 1-month anniversary or something.
Hey,
And on that happy note, do I have a motion to adjourn? To adjourn,
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.